What is going on, everybody? It is episode 215 of Pop Culture Crisis. My name is Brett. I am here with my co-host. Would you introduce yourself, please?
Hello, crisis actors. It's Mary. I hope you're happy that I finally remembered to wear a beanie today.
Looks
and I feel
fantastic.
cozy in it. I like it.
It looks
I
fantastic.
fought it for so long, but I'm happy.
Did you set it like by the door to get ready to leave today? Like last night, did you set it out?
No, I just happened to remember by sheer luck.
I went through mine like looking for I left most of my beanies at home and I found one. And I was like, I don't think she wants to wear that one. I've had that one for like years and it's I would have to wash it.
I was hoping to have a no step on snack beanie.
I can't find it. I got one of those. We had like prototypes of it.
I don't think it's real. I think you're lying.
It's
a myth.
It's a myth. Yes. And by the way, that voice right there, that is our guest host today.
Mythological Ian Crossland has arrived. Roll initiative.
Very mythological. Was it mythological? You said.
That's what I said. Yeah.
I like that better.
You like that better? I remember there was an episode of the X-Files where where Scully says toxicological. And I was like, I don't think that's a word.
I think it is
that
a word.
That is a word, though.
But people say toxicological. I don't know if they always say the C in that there. It
is toxicology.
Yeah, toxicological.
So it was like when she said it, I don't think I've ever heard that in a crime show sense.
It's a long word.
It's yeah. It also reminds me of just how ahead of its time the X-Files was doing autopsies and science stuff on TV. So we got a bunch of stuff to talk about today. We're going to talk about the end of new actors getting work as deepfake technology improves. We have this article about Bruce Willis essentially just selling the rights to his own likeness over to a company, which is extremely dystopian and crazy. After that, we were going to talk about the director and the writer of Blonde, the Ana de Armas-led film about Marilyn Monroe. I almost said Marilyn Manson. That would be interesting. We can make that one next.
That's coming next.
That would be next. He has some takes about people calling his film anti-pro-choice, which is a weird way of saying.
They never claimed it was a pro-life movie. Just. It's anti-abortion sentiment.
Yes.
I don't know.
So we're going to talk about that, and then we're going to talk about Jordan Peterson being dragged for having the gall, the temerity to have a human response to somebody making ridiculous claims about him. He did that on Piers Morgan. So we got that. We got Podluck. We got a bunch of other stuff. We're just going to get right into it. Are we ready, Mary?
We're ready.
Are we ready, Ian?
Ready.
All right, let's go. So it says, actor Bruce Willis becomes first celebrity to sell rights to deepfake firm. Cue the creepy music.
I hate, first of all, that it's called Deep Cake because it reminds me of the Is It Cake meme where, like, you're going to cut into Bruce Willis and realize that it's cake and that's his digital twin. Another thing I hate is the term digital twin. Completely, like that's so creepy. Gives me like The Shining vibes.
The whole thing is so. It says action movie legend Bruce Willis has become the first Hollywood actor to sell his rights to the possibility of a digital twin to the U.S. firm Deepfake, according to the Telegraph. With the use of deepfake technology, Willis has offered his likeness to be used on screen for future projects, following his first experience with the digital media manipulation in a commercial for a Russian phone service named Megaphone last year. I can play a couple of seconds of that clip.
You sure it's not copywritten?
We won't be able to play the audio, but it's in Russian. Does anybody here speak Russian? I don't speak Russian.
So. Yeah, I learned the Cyrillic alphabet last night, actually.
Oh!
I memorized it. It's nice.
So here's the internet's been lagging a little here, but you can see some of it here. That's not Bruce Willis on the left there. So you see it. So then they basically go through and they talk about. I want to go back to that clip here where it's them at the part. There's one good close up of his face that looks pretty good. Like that one doesn't. I don't think that one actually looks all that great. Like right there, I don't think that looks very much like him. Mm-hmm. But that looks kind of good. It's like if you look.
If you watched it and they didn't tell you it was a deep fake, would you have suspected it?
Yeah, like it's
because I feel like if you aren't warned about it beforehand, you're more likely to believe it's real.
Same thing with AI art.
I've seen interviews with like tech executives and other people that I feel like look deep faked, but it's not confirmed or even hinted. Like I saw an interview of Jeff Bezos where I was sure, like completely sure that it was deepfaked, but no one was talking about it.
It's pretty common for like world leaders to have body doubles, right? In celebrities, like to have like body
and just deepfake their face.
Those
but then that
nootropics.
means So is he selling only his face and his likeness and not his voice? He's going to have to...
The voice would come with it as well, I'm assuming.
It's a package deal?
Yeah, so it says...
So it's interesting that they're doing this because he retired...
because of his aphasia
Because of his aphasia. So we're seeing with him and then with James Earl Jones retiring because...
He's 91. And
because he's 91 and his voice is not what his voice used to be.
Yep.
It's not just age that is going to make certain entertainers obsolete now, but like imagine even if you are not reaching an old age or you're not diagnosed with a serious illness, if you become undesirable to the entertainment industry in any way, then it seems favorable to sell your image or your voice.
Or imagine you sell your image and likeness, and then you use something they don't like, and they start giving you nothing but awful roles.
Yeah, dude. So like imagine when younger stars go through bad phases, and they're hard to work with, or anyone is labeled difficult to work with. That's a huge thing that gets people blacklisted in the industry. Then are they just going to sell their likeness in favor of...
Brendan Fraser got very fat, and now they might sell his young likeness when he was all ripped and muscular. They could take like ugly, overweight people and make them look thin, take their likeness and make them look... How long are these contracts? How long is this Bruce Willis contract?
The Bruce Willis one, they don't mention length of the contract. They just mention that he sold it. I'll read what he says.
If they don't mention it, you can assume that it's permanent because James Earl Jones sold his voice for permanent use.
Yeah.
Like...
They could put him on like
in all
porn.
Dimensions, in all universes or multiverses.
It's very concerning.
In the metaverse, anywhere.
They could have him incite
times.
Wars. They could have him do all sorts of crazy stuff if they own his voice. There's
no clause against anything.
Even if the contract runs out, then it would be up to your estate.
And at that point,
and they're going to do it
anyways. Is your
anyways.
estate even going to remember you? That's not your family.
So it says, this is him talking about his experience working with Deepfake, which was the company that made the Russian commercials for Megaphone. It says, I like the precision with which my character turned out. It's a mini movie in my usual action comedy genre. For me, it's a great opportunity to go back in time. With the advent of modern technology, even when I was on another continent, I was able to communicate, work, and participate in the filming. It's a very new and interesting experience, and I thank our entire team. I'm thinking of like, imagine like you're an actor and they want to shoot a scene in a particular country, and they can't get you there to do it or something has to be done in a crunch. They could shoot it with a double and then deep fake later in a pinch if they needed that exact shot in that exact place. Or or think of like, there's a lot of pro wrestlers, for example, who get in trouble with the law that can't travel internationally because of once you have a felony on your record or something like that, you can't travel internationally without like some type of
for some
waiver.
reason, for some other regulation that a certain country has, you're not allowed there.
Yeah.
Certain athletes have experienced. If you go to deepcake.io, it shows a bunch of different side-by-sides with the Bruce Willis deepfake, where they show you like different scenes that they've done with him. At the top, yeah. It just shows you different side-by-sides.
Oh, it's so terrifying.
Many different ones.
It's so terrifying. That one looks really good.
Yeah. The way they're decapitating him on the promo video.
Do you think he did this? Do you think he did this because of his of the aphasia diagnosis? That he just saw it as a way to provide for his family forever.
Yeah, and
I suppose so, but he could do that anyway.
Yeah,
it's
it's not like he's going to be.
He's trying to provide for like his great grandchildren, I suppose.
It's like his legacy. People will, if they keep using Bruce Willis for decades and thousands of years, he'll be still like relevant. I don't know if it's kind of
like the new way to generational wealth.
My father invented toaster strudel. Is now my father sold his likeness to a deepfake firm.
It's really dangerous for a corporation to own your likeness because they can make you do whatever they want. I don't know what the contract says if they want to make him step out and say World War III, like or go have him on the head of a goat, like having sex with a dog, like
that's what I'm saying. Like you don't know, like
if they want to make him the ambassador of a different like non-profit organization
that he might not have agreed with.
anything. Yeah.
Like imagine this. Now it's gonna have to go the other way around, where the actor is gonna have to have the morals clause. Like, you can't make me do this in your videos, rather than the studios requiring them to have a morals clause to not misbehave.
Well, these contracts before were old entertainment contracts were saying, we own your likeness heretofore in the future in all universes across all space and time, and people were just signing it because there was no thought of
what that meant.
Like, what does that even mean?
Deepfakes.
LOL,
they didn't exist.
signed.
So it was like, yeah, right. So you're gonna put my face on a T-shirt, okay? But they were getting roped into those contracts, so at least now they're getting paid. Like, Bruce has specifically got paid because he knows his likeness is going to get used in perpetuity.
I mean, I feel like the technology will also have to evolve pretty quickly, because as people have access, like, I think about like the amount of stuff I used to watch and thought looked good because I was watching on a small TV, and then you watch it on a larger TV and you're like, holy crap, I can't believe I thought. Like, the best examples are like fire. Fire always tends to look very, very, it's very hard to mimic what fire actually looks like when you recreate it digitally. Same with human breath. Like, once you see it at a higher resolution, it just doesn't move the same way.
Do you know, do you like motion smoothing?
Like
on TV movies and stuff?
No, I don't ever do that.
Because I find it weirdly satisfying to watch the motion smoothing on like I don't know, when I watch a TV movie.
They might actually start, like, you could probably create you could probably in pre-production and then in camera account for that with your settings.
Yeah.
But that's not probably what most of them are doing. It's kind of like watching IMAX movies on like a regular television when they're shot in IMAX. It looks really good. Or my favorite is when you see the aspect ratio change. Like on a lot of Christopher Nolan movies, when he switches between IMAX and regular film, you see once you see it, you can't unsee it. So they would do things for like honest trailers or videos, like they put the black bars become blue, and then all you notice how it switches constantly, but where you wouldn't notice it before if you were just watching it regularly. I also want to know, who is an actor, if we weren't so questioning of this technology, who is somebody that you would like to see brought back if we didn't have the moral qualms?
I mean, are they not already doing that with Michael Jackson hologram concerts?
That's the first thing I thought about was music, because I was like,
they're already doing it.
It's different with music for me, because music is inherently in person. Like I think of that as like not the music video version, but I think of music as something that you can see in person, right? So on these lists, I was looking through old actors, like actors that died at a young age, because I was looking for a specific name, and they were listing musicians too, Tupac, Biggie, Selena. They all died young, but that's different, because seeing them in person, you wouldn't be able to see the deep fake without a screen or a hologram. So actors you're used to seeing on a screen all the time, not in person.
Okay.
I don't know. Really,
I think it's unethical regardless.
It's also endemic in this like recycle culture crap where people can't let go of Bruce Willis. Like, who's the real actor that's doing the role that is getting Willis's face plastered on? Like, that actor should be front and center, like getting the accolades.
Well, that's like the headline I made for this episode is like that nobody's getting more screwed out of this than new actors who will not be given a chance to flourish, because why go back? First of all, if you're making a deepfake, you can always count on them to show up on time. You can always count on them. You don't need to pay for travel expenses or anything like that. Like, it's a lot easier. It's kind of like how we used to do practical effects for movies, and now we just do visual effects because it can all be done in post, and it's just less hassle in the moment. It becomes more expensive down the line, but nobody wants to put that effort in on set.
Yeah, like what upcoming actor is going to be the next Bruce Willis? I don't think there is one. And since we know that
Alan Ritchson, the dude from Reacher, he could be the next Bruce Willis.
But he won't be.
Probably.
Because the industry has changed. Like, he just no one can be as iconic as the current established A-list class is right now. And also Gen Z is not nearly as interested in watching TV and films as previous generations, and I don't think that trend is going to change going down in the future.
So they just use the deepfakes to keep the older generations happy.
Yeah, as you go out on into the big.
Thank you guys.
The big lazy boy in the sky. You will be watching.
Oh, man. That
Bruce Willis deepfakes.
That is a depressing way of thinking about it. I'm literally thinking, because I literally just the other day, one of my favorite movies is a movie called Lucky Number 11 with Bruce Willis and Josh Hartnett. I'm thinking, does that mean I have to get de-aged Josh Hartnett and deep-faked Bruce Willis to get the sequel in like 20 years.
We already have deepfaked influencers and like obviously digital influencers who are marketed that way. That's why they're relevant. So, and we already have women who edit themselves on TikTok to the point where they're unrecognizable, but it's imperceptible to the people scrolling past.
You know, there's women that go to plastic surgeons and say they want to look like filters now.
Yeah.
That's so freaking terrifying.
And that started with like very crude versions of the filters we have today in as late as 2016.
I feel like, what were you gonna, what was the last thing you were gonna say?
Well, I was just gonna say, like, if you were to make an equivalent for this for Gen Z or Gen Alpha, then it would be like deep faking your favorite TikTok star because all they do is the dancing. You just put their face on another dancer and you have the same product.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like I don't want to be a Luddite about it. And no offense to Luddites. Luddites are, I guess, people that don't want...
It's not Luddite?
Luddite? Is it Luddite?
Whatever.
But people that are afraid of technology and advancement. Because, like, it's freaky, it's new. I think of all the dystopian weird stuff they can make people do. But at the same time, I'm obsessed. I love video games. I like first-person VR experience where, like, I think the future of movies is interactive where you're the main character in the movie or you're seeing the movie through the eyes of whatever character in the movie you want to see it through.
That would become its own genre eventually.
Well, we were talking about this fan-made movie. It's not really a fan-made movie, but it's an AI-generated series of shorts that's going to be generated into a full-length film called Salt. And it's a sci-fi, supposed to imitate like 70s, 80s sci-fi movies. And it's being posted on Twitter, and then the creator of it posts polls for all of the fans to decide what happens next in the plot. And he generates all of the scripts with a text generator, all of the voices with AI, an AI voice like machine, and then all of the images are AI created, and he just slightly tweaks them with editing to make them look like they're moving. And that's going to be a feature-length film, but that seems like the future.
Is that out now? Is there some
No.
of that
The
out?
shorts are all
production.
out, so people are following the plot along with these shorts, and they're like pretty crude technology-wise, but it's he promises a full-length film coming up for Salt. So it seems like the more we become like AI, the more that's what we want.
Well, it's
We want to take creative control rather than receive creativity from artists.
and we live even less in the real world every day. Like how much of your day do people spend out in the real world but on their phone, so they're not even really experiencing the real world unencumbered from technology.
It feels
anyways.
trite to point
I know,
out, but
it's true.
It's true.
It's like it's one of those things where I tend to catch myself doing it, and you have to kind of learn to put it down and stop. That's not easy.
It's a lot of radiation. It is the real world, though. Looking at a phone, video games, they're there. So they're still the real world. It's just another thing in the real world that you can get lost and obsessed with.
Yeah, but it affects my mental state to be online for too long.
It's that radiation, man. I think it's the radiation coming out of the screen. Because sometimes I'll look back at the screen and immediately feel how I used to feel when I was like, I'll look at the screen, I'll get upset, I'll look away, I'll start to feel normal again. And then when I look back at the screen, even if it's a blank screen, I start to feel like I was just feeling like that.
Yeah.
Like the screen twists me back to my old state of mind.
But even if we're not talking video games and just surfing the internet, you're not passively taking in information. You're taking in curated information and you're actively searching for it, which is a little bit different than experiencing the real world as you talk to other people. It's not the same. Your brain doesn't engage with it the same way, which is why I would have a lot of questions about how the actual process of trying to enjoy a movie that you're also a character in, or that you're also choose your own, like maybe that's just a personality type, but the idea of choose your own adventure movie doesn't interest me.
That's for video games, not for movies, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I love it. If you could watch a movie and then be like, okay, I want to watch it again, but this time I want to be a character in the movie. And then
But don't you think that
then the movie
feeds into
changes.
today's narcissism? That it has to relate to you personally?
Yeah.
But it's also a good way to learn about yourself and learn about interactive experience with humans. Like a lot of video games are like training
It's debatable.
I would have to experience it to.
And
to
I
know
want to
that.
return to your point, differentiating these deepfakes with Hollywood actors and musicians, because I think that if they're dead, it is unethical no matter what the context is, because you don't know whether, we have to just be humble and admit that we don't know what happens. None of us have died. We don't know what happens or what it's like to be dead. And then you're using someone's image and voice and likeness and name recognition to make money for either their family or their employees. And you don't know whether they actually would consent to that.
Would you have so you'd have less of a problem with it if they were alive? Now what I'm picturing,
if they're alive, at least they can object to it openly.
What I'm picturing now is Harry Styles. He's so in demand. He's like, I can be in two places at once. You can pay $50 for a ticket to see me in person, or you can pay $40 to see a concert of me with a deep fake.
And that's coming. So that's what I thought when I found this article about Holly Herndon. She is an experimental musician who uses AI machine learning technology to make her music and now to sell her voice. So she created this project called Holly Plus, and it's a tool that enables other artists to make music using an AI generated likeness of her voice. And she's sanctioning this. She is encouraging people to use this product. It's a collaboration with something called Never Before Heard Sounds. And she wants to allow others to distribute her voice in their music. So it's not going to be hers anymore.
Is that a weird thing? She doesn't care about the money. She cares about the immortality of spreading the sound of her voice to many different people.
Yeah.
That's weird. I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, I get something sinister off of this.
I mean, I don't know about sinister. I mean, your brain just processes things differently. Is that any different than wanting to capitalize and monetize your voice being sold on album the world
I guess
over?
if people have the technology to clone your voice anyways, she feels might as well monetize it and earn money off of it, right? Yeah. I respect that at least.
Would she make the money through advertising then on the app or on the site? If it sounds open source, it sounds like she's giving it away. She's not selling it. I guess it's got plus in it. Plus means it costs money now.
She's saying she personally isn't going to be making the profits, but that the profits made from the commercial usage of her digital likeness will be ingested by the DAO, who are able to vote on new tool creation and approve official usage of my twin, Holly Plus.
That is scary to me.
I hate the twin language.
Yes,
it's
they're still
gross.
using it.
DAO,
and she
decentralized
said,
autonomous organizations. They're like decentralized corporations, basically. But one person can still own the majority of the DAO. And then control her likeness. So that's still a risk.
Yeah, and she said, this development raises novel questions about voice ownership that I think can be addressed by DAO governance. So she's not saying exactly how this should be...
or who, like he said,
interesting idea.
Maybe she's still in charge of
it's an interesting concept that it would stay decentralized and the crowd would get to decide what goes next, but you think worst case scenario, and usually that will happen eventually at some point. Well, maybe not usually, but often. And that would be that one group or entity takes control of the DAO and then controls her likeness, which is very, make her put her face on a dog and have it have sex with a goat. Like, what do you want? You gave it up, so if that's what you want.
But if she's
they're going to do that anyway, man. Yeah. With your face on the internet and internet video blogs. Sorry to cut you off, man, but I think about this since 2006. I've got 3,000 internet videos of my voice and my face going for 10 to 20 minutes each or something like that. I don't know if it's that many, but they're going to be making deepfakes of me whether I want them to or not. Yeah. So should I capitalize? Should I push it or should I just let the water flow?
What is the ideal video of you being deepfaked into it? What is a video you'd actually like to see if somebody was creative and wanted to create a deepfake video of you? What would it look like?
I don't know.
Do you feel okay with that if that were to happen?
Or is it just you've resigned yourself to it?
You've already been deceptively edited to say things that you didn't say.
What I don't like is when people pretend like they're me. So like if someone's like misleading people to think that it's me actually talking to them, if that happens in the future, that's very dangerous.
Yeah.
But as long as they know it's not the original copy, I think it's okay.
Yeah.
Well, the lines between digital fakes and real life are gonna be blurred. That's unavoidable.
The digital fakes have got to keep reminding people, I am the digital fake. I'm not the original.
That's why I wanted to address the theory that the more voices and likenesses are duplicated and distributed and sold, then it increases the value of the original. It is like the value of the original person and their original voice increases with the amount of duplicates that are sold. So it means that the original is always going to be more valuable. So she said in this blog post about Holly Plus, this approach supports the my collectible ass principle advocated for by Zora and originally proposed by theorist Mackenzie Wark. This principle states that the more prominent and visible or audible a work of art is, the more valuable the certified original becomes. So she thinks that selling her voice and her likeness is actually going to benefit her as an artist in all of her original work more than the people who sell the derivative products.
Yeah, imagine like your in-person fees go through the roof because your digital presence spread out through the deepfakes has been see what I mean?
Big time.
Yeah, like you'd actually be worth twice as much to do in-person
At least
stuff.
if one of those deepfake songs hits #1, then they're going to pay her 1,000 times what they would have paid her to go play a show live, as the original will come on. And
yeah, that reminds me of that Black Mirror episode about Ashley O starring Miley Cyrus, and that was more of a satire about Hannah Montana than anything, but it also talked about the possibilities for digital artists and the original artist being exploited in favor of their well-behaved digital fake.
Yeah.
So when Ashley O wants to step out of the public eye, or she's not comfortable with it anymore, then they want to fully replace her with her hologram, and her hologram is actually more well-liked than she is.
Or like, can they sell the right, like when you sell your rights to a deepfake, do you only allow them to use it in the actual created media for the movie, or do they get to use that same deepfake to advertise on social media? That's a completely different medium entirely. Like, what if you don't want your deepfake to be used to promote digitally, but you're okay with it being used for the movie because that's within the confines of one story?
There's not, if they're like,
yeah,
they
can
have
your
you do
can your
commercials,
deepfake do a press junket for the
Yeah.
movie that
and they
it's
can
in?
have you be like, oh yeah, eat the most unhealthy food, like have you just say stuff you totally disagree with. That's, of course, the corporations would do that.
Yeah, like that's terrifying.
Other
to me.
people will use you if they can. You got to really protect yourself and your visage.
It's almost impossible to write a clause that's specific enough to prevent that, because if you say, like, you can't make my image or likeness or voice say politically incorrect statements.
Yeah. Well,
The
then who decides
definition
what the
of
hell
that is going
is?
to change in the
Yeah.
next year, 5 years, 10 years, going down the line. It's going to be unrecognizable. You cannot write a clause that's thorough and expansive enough to prevent your likeness from being misused.
I think
It's
maybe
impossible.
the only way to go is to open source your likeness,
So that everybody,
so that everyone has equal access to it.
That's terrible.
Maybe that's what the ultimate goal is
So-
for Holly Plus. I don't
So
know.
really, freedom or like privacy is just a thing of the. I mean, we've kind of known that for a while, that privacy is kind of a thing of the past. But you'll have no right to privacy whatsoever.
Your person will still. You'll have walls in your house, but like
Yeah.
if they know your deepest thought, I don't know if they'll be able to know your deepest thoughts just through the AI.
Or misinterpret your deepest thoughts by having a deepfake say something that you don't actually believe or would ever actually say.
And can someone get in trouble legally for something illegal that their deepfake does?
That's the other thing. I want to talk about the idea that there will have to be whole new lines of law, like new aspects of laws written to actually put the stuff into practice that don't exist yet. Like we're not even close to that yet. Like how do you do this legally?
Dude, I'm looking at this stuff called talking plasma that the military's been working on. It's when they take lasers and they focus them into an area and they hit, like, triangulate 3 or more lasers, and they hit this area and it creates a ball of plasma that they can project sound through, so they can teleport sound. So you could do that with someone's likeness. You could and have them be walking around on the street speaking to people, but it's an illusion. It's a piece of plasma. And then if that thing goes into and threatens someone, you know, is your real person going to get on the hook for that? Obviously, you shouldn't.
All this because Bruce Willis just wanted to make a little bit more money and sell his dang likeness to a company.
He's a canary in the coal mine.
Yeah. The only reason that the military has technologies like that is because of independent contractors and people who sell their products to the military.
Thank you, DARPA.
So, there you go. This is what happens.
Let's now that Bruce Willis has officially destroyed the future of the free world with his selling his likeness off to a company, let's go to Super Chats.
Okay, Call Me Snow Possum said, "These are not spirit fingers, these are spirit fingers, and these are gold." Is this a reference to something?
I think so.
I do not recognize it.
It's weird enough to say yes to.
And then he said, "Yo, Ian, DMT got me to quit all my bad habits, but my friend tried acid once. Now he thinks he's a glass of orange juice."
Sounds like he tried quite a bit.
Yeah, I would like
too much.
I would love to
like
know like what the process was that allowed them, like what the experience was with DMT that led to that. You know.
Yeah, I've heard ibogaine. People will use that to kick addiction.
Okay, like that's crazy to me because I don't think any. Like, to me,
I don't think that you shouldn't have bad habits. I think everyone should have bad habits.
Yeah, no, nobody likes.
Where is the resistance in life?
Nobody likes somebody with absolutely no bad habits.
Yeah, come on.
That's very, very frustrating.
Readopt some.
The LSD is an old trope from like the 60s, is that somebody ate so much acid that they thought they were a glass of orange juice. So maybe he was referring to that.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yesh said, "Weird Twinkies. I wore my beanie too. Thanks, bestie."
What prompted you to put on the beanie?
Everyone has been harassing me in the chat, telling me that I have to wear a beanie, so I obeyed them.
She's been traumatized.
I've been traumatized, victimized.
She was crying in her chair today.
No,
body checked into it.
I just felt like it. Okay, this is my choice. Potatoes for Seamus said, "Blonde hair, beanies. What is this world coming to? LOL. They all look great, but not as great as Ian and his bodacious co-host Luca. LOL."
Oh snap! You saw the show. That was last night's show, and if you got to look at Luke, you know what he's talking about.
I saw it. I saw them practicing it beforehand.
Practicing what?
You know,
you'll just have to watch the
you'll
show.
Have to watch the show to find out.
You'll find out early on if
okay.
you turn it on.
Hulls in the Kid said, "Willis gets to continue his career without having to do any work. Sounds like he's just working smarter, not harder. Good for him, especially since he's disabled." I
guess the idea is like, yeah, like you worked hard enough to build up a body of work that allows you to now
sell out.
Sell out. I guess.
But that should be about like.
Not saying it's a good thing. I'm just saying it makes
getting
sense.
Advertisement deals, not about selling who you are.
Bruce Willis.
I think this all comes from everyone being indoctrinated with the idea that we are not our bodies and that we are just living in shells. But like you are very much a composite being with your body, and that is you. So, and you're not just some floating vibe in a shell.
Or maybe Bruce Willis is just a huge transhumanist.
This is a form of slavery. And it needs to be called out. Like, I genuinely feel that way.
Corporate ownership, or at least corporate.
Gross.
They own the like. I don't know if they own
like
or if they
corporate
just have
leasing
what is
of
it,
your
a right. They have the rights to it or something. Leasing.
They're basically leasing the rights to your likeness.
Those contracts have to have sunset clauses. That would drive me nuts if they don't. They've got to do that.
I mean,
James Earl Jones doesn't have that.
It's Disney owns him forever.
They own the voice forever. Disney and Respeecher is the two companies that own his voice now. Which is funny too, because I'm thinking about like those people with really distinct voices are oftentimes the ones that voice out like the people that do like impressions do the best. Like some of the best, like I follow a couple of like people who do impressions on Instagram, like do voice impressions, and one of the most common ones is Morgan Freeman because he has such a distinct voice that if you can get even close to it, it sounds pretty good.
What's concerning me is if the corporations keep conglomerating and then we get one corporation on Earth that owns the rights to all the people, and then they can just play play humanity for humanity to keep them in pot. Like, it's crazy.
In the pods, eat the bugs. Watch the Bruce Willis movie that's not a Bruce Willis movie.
Sedate.
Yeah.
If Morgan Freeman's voice is that iconic, and he sells it for infinite reuse, how is anyone else supposed to come along and innovate? Like, or in acting, in music, anything, voice acting. No one else is going to be allowed to innovate and get to the same status.
Imagine you're like an up-and-coming voice actor and you keep losing work to not Morgan Freeman.
Yeah, they try and pull a fast one. Like, you can't act unless you sign a contract with us first. That's the problem. That watch out for that kind of crap. Which obviously there's nothing on the horizon that looks like that. But maybe not in our lifetime. Because the freedom of people to get up and just make a character out of nothing is like unstoppable.
Delta 999 report card said, Ian, you could probably beat up the Silver Surfer. He's a
jobber.
A jobber.
Literally anyone can get the jump on him. That'd be a good movie.
Jobber is a pro wrestling term.
What does that mean?
It's like a guy who loses all the time.
Oh, does he?
Oh,
but he's got
okay.
cosmic powers, man. I wouldn't tangle.
Yeah.
He's also fast.
Jobber is there's a movie called Jobber. I recommend everyone go watch pro wrestling again. It's hilarious how like it hasn't changed all that much.
Caper2X said, yikes, darn my eyes, but it is not Beanie Mary, non-Hurricane Ian, and Brett Dasovic, blonde man of mystery.
Oh,
good grief. Howdy, PCC peeps. Make mine marvel.
What up, dog?
I was like, am I just my name? I didn't see the part
blonde
at the end.
man
like,
of mystery.
That's good. That's good. I was like, she gets to be Beanie Mary. He gets to be non-Hurricane Ian. I'm just me. That's not very nice. But then he went on and made blonde man of mystery.
I like that.
It could be a movie.
I need to stop watching YouTube said the Tao that can be named is not the eternal Tao.
That's right.
That true?
Okay.
The Tao flows. That's the Taoism, obviously. T-A-O, not spelled Tao.
I want to take this opportunity to ask the chat, do you like Hawaiian rolls?
See, I mean, I'm of two minds on this. One, because I've never like chosen. I've never like it's never been my choice.
You never get a hankering for Hawaiian rolls.
Never, literally never. And
I must have today for the first time.
Lydia would be proud of me. Literally never. I've never in my life had like the desire to eat a Hawaiian roll, but I have eaten them when.
But
offered.
when they are on offer, you will have a cheeky Hawaiian roll.
They're kind of yellow, right? When you break them
sometimes. Not all of them. I was thinking I mixed them up with potato bread. Potato bread is yellow.
I hate potato bread.
Potato bread is all right.
I like the lightness of the Hawaiian roll. No, I'm definitely thinking of
The
Hawaiian
sweet
rolls.
glaze on top. But I just wanted to bring it up because like we're talking about AI and the metaverse and how we're all connected, and like Hawaiian rolls are all connected, but they're also different. You can see each individual Hawaiian roll, but you have to pull them apart, and they don't. They're.
Like you want to rip them open and see what's inside of them.
I don't know what I'm saying anymore. I just
medical of you.
I want to ask the question as to who the hell left the cream cheese in our refrigerator. Okay.
There's a random block of cream cheese in our mini fridge up here, and we have no idea who left it there.
It feels like it felt like a psyop to me.
It does.
Like,
it feels like
not a
yes.
gift.
Who would just leave a cream cheese of all things?
And I've asked everyone I am aware of who has been up here, who was it? Like, if they did it. And they're like, no, what?
And I'm like gaslighting myself. I'm like, did I bring cream cheese up
Did
here?
you?
Maybe
I was like, I
maybe I was the one.
Because I was just at the store. I go into my room and I check, and I'm like, no, it's there. I didn't just randomly bring it up to the studio. No. Yeah. So I there could be a listening device in there. You don't know.
Someone's like turning the music
Cream
up slowly.
cheese
every day.
surveillance.
Yeah.
Caper2X said, God bless DARPA, Brett. No DARPA, no internet. No internet, no Beanie Mary. And her disregard for civil law and cart parking. So true. So ultimately, you can thank DARPA for pop culture crisis existing.
That is true. I mean, I said it kind of like in jest, but like, is DARPA still a government agency though, right? But they contract out to independent companies.
DARPA
with contracts.
I don't know if DARPA is officially government. I think it is. It used to be ARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. Yes, agency of the United States. Originally ARPA, and when they invented the internet, they were called ARPA.
Okay, so ARPA
like in the 60s or something.
James Riley said Celebrity Deathmatch Deepfake Edition. That is all.
That's a great idea. Mary, do you know what Celebrity Deathmatch is? Did you ever see that show?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Imagine what he just said, but like claymation. Like it's like claymation celebrities
Okay.
fighting to the death.
MTV.
It was a uniquely Gen X. It was a thing of beauty. It was great.
Huh.
Yeah, there's a big claymation resurgence in like 1993 or something. Remember Clay Fighter, that Super Nintendo game?
Mary was like 7 years from 10.
I was years from even becoming a glint in my father's eye.
He hadn't even considered the possibility yet.
T-Bone said, Mary, love the beanie. Ian, where's yours? Do you
Well,
ever wear
have
beanies?
I don't know. I
Doesn't
think
seem like
once. I think once in the last 5 or 6 years I did.
But you have a good hair length for it, though. Like, you can't have, like, middle long hair and wear a beanie because then it folds up. So you have to have either short hair, a little bit under the beanie, or it has to be very long. Yours is, like, a good length
I have a
for it.
beanie. I do have it. Tim got me one. It's crazy colors. It's like a rainbow beanie.
Okay.
Perhaps next time you're on the show, you can at least start the show.
Maybe,
with
yeah.
Also, some like Tim wears the beanie under the
beanie?
under the headphones.
Oh.
But you can. I wonder if like how on IRL they have like the rule that if you wear a cowboy hat, you don't have to wear headphones. We could have like if you don't want to wear headphones, you can just wear a beanie.
Oh, yeah. But I'm wearing them. And
Yeah.
It makes them more comfy. They don't, like, squeeze my head as much.
She starts wearing the beanie all the time now.
I'm going to get it. I'm going to be the Tim of pop culture.
Did you turn your headset up to compensate?
No. It sounds fine to me. Waffles Sensei said, if I get turned into an AI, don't let Black Brock buy me.
Vanguard we'll sell you to Vanguard.
I don't know how to stop them. How do you prevent it?
We'll sell you to Vanguard.
Call Me Snow Possum said, it helped me quit smoking cigarettes and drinking alcohol. I think he just took too much for the first time is from Bring It On.
Oh.
Yeah, that's cool,
Wait.
man. That DMT helped you stop smoking. They say that psychedelics, they don't actually do it, but they give you the opportunity to choose to do it for yourself. So they'll let you help you see things in a different way, and then you have to make the decision, which apparently you did. Nice.
Have you watched Bring It On, Brett?
I've never seen Bring It On.
Okay, I've been told to watch it.
Believe it or not, there are bad movies that I haven't seen.
Marcos said, off topic, what is your favorite kind of cookie?
Mary.
Gotta go with that classic chocolate chip.
There's
The Chick-fil-A chocolate chip cookies with the little oatmeal bits.
It's actually one of the few things that
love
Subway
them.
ever did well was make chocolate chip cookies.
Those are good too, but not as good as Chick-fil-A.
But Chips Ahoy has like a Reese's peanut butter chocolate chip soft cookie that is extremely bad for you and extremely awesome.
Any peanut butter cookie with chocolate chips
Yes.
in it, I love that.
Chocolate's game breaking. So good. I don't like sugar that. I mean, obviously it tastes good, but I don't like putting it in my body because I get inflamed and addicted. But
Those Hawaiian rolls.
Cacao, man, give it to me. Oh yeah, all that gluten.
The Hawaiian rolls get you all.
The gluten's away.
All right, guys, we're gonna move on. We're gonna talk about
Deep cake.
We went from deep cake and cookies to talking about the movie Blonde. We're gonna get into the serious stuff. I was reading the chat and somebody's like, "This topic's pretty serious." I'm like, "I've not seen nothing yet. We haven't gotten there yet."
Yeah.
So, do you want to
We've
go ahead?
got something rather dark to talk about, but we're gonna try to keep it on topic. So, Andrew Dominic, the director of Blonde, the Marilyn Monroe biopic that released on Netflix recently, he had to come to the defense of his movie because it was accused of having an anti-choice sentiment.
Which means nothing.
plot.
That makes no sense.
Meaning it seemed critical of abortion to viewers.
And you can't do that anymore.
Now, people had other issues with the movie that I also understand. They said that it seemed like it was more about Ana de Armas than about Marilyn Monroe, and that it was...
Meaning the way it was shot.
It was shot to emphasize her body and have excessive nudity and sexual scenes.
They felt that the director was exploitative of her physique.
Yeah, and they said that it made Marilyn Monroe seem like too much of a victim and not really focused on her personality. But this is ultimately based on a novel and not meant to be a historical, accurate retelling of her life.
Which is
why he took liberties.
And I want to point out that before we get into it, that's very dangerous territory we're in right now.
Yeah.
Where dramatizations of real people's lives are then turned into movies.
Same situation with The Woman King.
Yeah.
Like, people will take that as historical fact.
The farther you get away from, because it's within their right as creatives to make something like that. If you're inspired by a person and you write a book about somebody that inspired you, and you take liberties, but you know people on the outset when you write that book know that that's what that is.
Like Abraham Lincoln fighting vampires.
Yeah, I mean that's a very extreme example, but yeah, like so it's like, but the ones that don't stray into sci-fi, right? They just change the story with Ana de Armas in Blonde with Marilyn Monroe. It's there's a lot of the sexualization. They make it a lot about her victimization of the industry, and they focus on certain aspects of her life. Now, what I'm just saying is that we're getting into a dangerous territory where it's kind of like a game of telephone. It's like the farther you get away from the actual story, the easier it is to obfuscate what actually happened in their lives.
Yeah, you can make a movie about George Washington, like torturing and murdering a guy.
Yeah, and like it's a dramatization, but then enough generations go by and they start to take that dramatization as the factual events of what happened in their life. I think that's a very dangerous precedent to set.
Yeah, but again, like things can be manipulated in all sorts of ways, including in history books. So you can't control the fact that like stupid people will watch Blonde and think that that's exactly what happened in Marilyn Monroe's life.
The famous picture of like the white guy is the Egyptian pharaoh in like every like history book.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just get ignorant people watching, and they might be brilliantly intelligent, and the problem with brilliant intelligence and ignorance when they're put together is you really believe what you think is real is real.
And you come up with the best ways to rationalize your beliefs. But anyway, Blonde, it portrayed Marilyn Monroe being haunted by the fetus that her unborn fetus that it says she aborted. Now, it's not known whether or not Marilyn Monroe ever got an abortion. She is known to have had 3 miscarriages in her marriage to, what is his name? Arthur Miller. Mm-hmm. And it's never confirmed that she's had an abortion in her life. But this filmmaker and this novel took the liberty of assuming that one of those miscarriages was actually an abortion and that she was haunted by the guilt after getting that abortion. And there was a notoriously graphic scene in this movie that was like a POV shot of her abortion. Now, I haven't seen that. I've only seen, we both have seen a part of the movie where she is clipping roses in her garden. And she hears the voice of her unborn fetus in that scene speaking to her. It's her second baby, asking like, are you going to do the same thing you did to... Like, are you going to abort me too, basically? Yeah. And it just shows her struggling with the guilt of that. So, and I think that's a very realistic depiction, right, of a lot of women who get abortions and then regret it afterwards.
There's a big push in Hollywood to make it seem like it's not something that you should feel any regret for, that you should not feel any guilt over. And the sad fact is that's not...
It's telling people how to feel.
The statistics don't tell us that there's a large amount of people, of women that feel a great amount of guilt or if not guilt, sadness, because they don't expect it to affect them the way that it does.
Yeah, so the supposed reason that she got this abortion in the film is because she thought that her mother's mental illness was hereditary and she didn't want to pass it on to her children. That's a very dark thing to explore in the film, but like obviously that's what he was going for. He got backlash because you aren't allowed to portray anything negative about abortion in film anymore, even if it's about the woman's experience.
You have to evangelize it.
Yeah,
make it
exactly.
Seem like the greatest thing ever.
So he had to respond to this backlash saying, I don't think the movie is anti-pro-choice. I don't think it is at all. And I'm not convinced that she actually wants to have a baby. I think she has feelings about not having a baby. I'm not convinced that what she's doing, she doesn't end up having one. There's a wish for a baby, but there's a fear of the baby. And I think that's kind of the central stressor on her. He continued, I think sort of this desire to look at Blonde through a Roe v. Wade lens is everybody else doing the same thing. They've got a certain agenda where they feel like the freedoms of women are being compromised, and they look at Blonde and they see a demon. But it's not really about that. I think it's very difficult for people to step out of the stories they carry inside themselves and see things of their own volition. And I think that's really what the movie is about, the dangers of that.
I feel like he wants the movie to transcend the time period that it lives in. And that this movie should stand on its own even if Roe v. Wade hadn't been overturned. and you were still able to look at it. He doesn't want you to see this movie as a snapshot in time. And this is kind of the thing that happened with when the first episode of House of the Dragon came out. There's a very graphic scene of a baby dying in childbirth and a mother dying in childbirth. And they're like, this was our commentary on Roe v. Wade, which anybody who has a half a brain understands that is bullshit, because the show had to be filmed far in advance of when that ruling was actually made. They're just saying that to curry favor with the public that happens to be angry about that in this moment.
And it's disrespectful to the people who've actually experienced it.
So it feels like what he wants is for this movie to live on its own outside of the realms of whatever the politics are of 2022.
Yeah, so that's why he pointed out he doesn't think that this film would have received the same backlash if he made it 5 years ago.
No, it wouldn't
But
have.
he also doesn't think it would have been as relevant then. He said that if he had made this movie in 2008, no one's going to care about it, or no one would care about it in 2008, and no one would care about it in 4 years' time from now.
Well, I don't know if nobody would, that's almost he's doing the movie a disservice saying that.
Exactly.
If
and
your
I don't
movie
think
only survives because you just happen to get lucky,
No.
and in a topical issue just happened to coincide with your release. First of all, you're disrespecting the source material. You're saying that the book that you adapted wasn't strong enough to live on its own. You're disrespecting Marilyn Monroe's influence on culture and society, which anybody that's hung out with a basic 20-year-old white woman knows that they're just about every one of them has a poster of Marilyn Monroe in their very first apartment. You're doing her cultural relevance and significance a disservice. You're kind of insulting a lot of people by saying that.
Do they
Yeah.
does her family or her estate sue if she's misrepresented? How does that work?
Well, this is based on a book, so they wouldn't even be able to.
Oh, so they probably sold the rights. They probably okayed the book at some point.
Yeah, so this is completely allowed. And I mean, I think it's rather... I mean, I think it's distasteful to show it. I won't...
The abortion?
Yeah, that, and really, I've heard, disturbing things about the whole movie.
Well, can I ask you a question? It's not off topic, but, we've talked about, at the March for Life, right?
Mm-hmm.
That they have the videos of abortions.
Yeah.
And you were hesitant to show that, even though you could argue that the shocking imagery that gives the public could help
The
further their
motivation
cause.
that people have, the motivation pro-life people at the march have behind showing that footage in front of everyone is that they want our society to, confront
The horror of
exactly what it is doing.
Yeah.
I understand that, but also there are children there, and everyone there is already on the same page about the horror of the procedure. So, you're not actually making any ignorant people confront what that is.
I mean, they put him on a big enough screen that it's possible.
And
that
also that's a
people-
person.
Yes.
And that's somebody's womb that you're showing
Yeah.
to thousands of people walking on the street.
Yeah.
That's not cool.
Yeah.
To say the least. I don't think that's okay.
I think the same with military conflict. If we had helmet cams on the soldiers, so when someone gets shot, you watch them bleed out, or if you see the horror of death on the field, or factory farming when you see the animals getting their bolts put into their head and their throats cut. But like you said, kids, you don't want to warp kids' minds to try and get a political point made. But adults, consenting adults, I think that footage is important for people to be able to see.
Sure. Yeah, but I mean, I think a lot of people clicked on this movie not thinking about it, and then they saw just really awful, dark stuff.
Yeah.
And didn't expect it because Marilyn Monroe is remembered so fondly and as this paragon of femininity and softness and happiness.
Does it feel like this
and her life was really dark and full of suffering.
Do you think that that's it just furthers the trend that we're seeing where we're looking at everything that was important to Americana and we're tearing it down little by little with
That's got to be
documentaries?
part of it, right?
I was watching we're not going to talk about it because it's not out yet, but there's a documentary being made about Barney and about the violence that the idea of Barney has inspired in people.
The purple dinosaur?
The purple dinosaur,
Yep.
where he gets vile messages about people wanting, people see Barney and are just filled with this innate desire to hurt him.
Really?
Really?
Yes.
That's got to be something more
Like it's like and the funny thing is,
I hated that show when I was a kid. My younger brother used to watch it. I'd be like, "What is this stupid, mind-melting crap?"
You don't even know why, but for something like, and I had a friend who posted like a video yesterday, had nothing to do with the documentary, just saying it was like a picture of Barney because I remember how much I hated.
It was like
Barney.
Teletubbies version 1, and then the Tubbies appeared.
What?
So we
Okay, but like Barney isn't exactly a like cultural touchstone for all
Kind of.
Americans, is he?
Kind of.
In 1993,
In the 90s,
it was
yeah.
like, or 90, it was like, why is this real?
But
why is he like, why is he talking like this? I'm like, just give him a normal voice at least.
Okay, then put it this way: if you hear the name Barney, is it not the first? Is a giant purple dinosaur not going to be the very first thing?
Yes.
That almost every Barney Fife was a thing.
There was a Barnaby before. He had that show in like 84 or something. He was that old dude. He was like around the 70s too. He looked like a captain on a boat.
But the point here is just that we as a culture, at least Hollywood, seems to be obsessed in recent years with finding things that seemed important to Americans, cultural touchstones, the things that brought us together as a nation, and systematically tearing them down from the inside and showing the worst aspects of them so that they can show you and say, look back and say, hey, it wasn't all that great, was it? Like, you hear that a lot. They're like, oh, America, it wasn't all that great. America was never great. Whoever I don't remember who that crappy politician was who said that. But, like, they want to take back and show you everything that you loved, everything that held this country together on a cultural level, and they want to tear it down.
Yeah.
You could make the argument that for the director, it's an individual project. That's what they care about. They don't care about tearing down the culture.
Right.
But they're interested in that story.
It's part of a greater trend.
Exactly. And that bothers me. Like, I mean, I'm not here to stop them from making their art, but I am wondering why there's so much financial backing for that type of project from the inside. I wouldn't be surprised if you found out years later that tinfoil hat, you find out that most of those films are financed by like Tencent or like Chinese production companies or Russian production companies to just propagandize Americans into thinking you didn't have it all that great. Your country isn't worth fighting for. Your country isn't all that special.
Yeah, there's a balance because there was a lot of American propaganda growing up for sure. Like telling me America's the greatest, we're the good guys, they were the bad guys. And like, yeah, sometimes. And the U.S. Constitution is legit, but there's a lot of nasty stuff. Like the Native American slaughter is like one of the most horrific things perpetrated on North America in the last in recorded history.
Well, there's sort of been a dishonest reframing of patriotism that it's...
Thank you.
That patriotism and wanting to see that reflected in media is a complete denial of anything wrong that has happened in this country when it never has been.
You can celebrate Thanksgiving without saying that you're celebrating the death of Native Americans.
Yeah, think about what Marilyn Monroe represents to this day, what she always has represented. It's, well, really like femininity, mystique, sexiness
Then
in a
is that
time
what they're
when
trying
like
to tear down?
Yeah, in a time that they claim is so puritanical, she was a sex symbol.
Or else
she's also like a great actor in the
and a great
like
performer, multi-talented performer,
and a woman at that time, which was like challenging to break. She kind of broke the mold and brought the women's the second wave feminism to a front. Like she was like a powerful force of femininity,
but at the same time was like very warm and charming, and.
Which, as Mary
knows,
knows,
everything that isn't allowed
nowadays
to be portrayed in film nowadays. So you have to show what her life was like in the most over dramatized, hyperbolic, like every low point they want to take from her life, fictionalize it, dramatize it, and make it more horrific than it even might have been in real life.
Yeah.
They just want to like tear her down as an icon.
I guess the balance is you do want to wake people up to the horror of atrocity that the United States has been involved in, but also you got to remind people that the U.S. Constitution liberation from the monarchy of England is like one of the greatest. I mean, the French immediately reciprocated and overthrew their like French American alliance. Like it's so important that we maintain these values of freedom, democracy, republicanism, American constitutionalism, but at the same time, acknowledge the crap.
Yep. Well, I actually get into, it's not a debate, but I have this kind of weird predilection to fight with people. I don't anymore, but I used to be more likely to fight with people or argue with people about this stuff. That it's not, pointing out the flaws does not make you inherently anti anything. But I found that most of the people that do focus on pointing out the flaws are very much that. And I don't think that that's what we are anymore. I think your average person that wants to celebrate the 4th of July and wears a shirt with an American flag on it isn't saying they want to support the government slaughtering a bunch of people overseas, or that they believe in drone strikes. Supporting the people and the citizenry and the shared core values of your country isn't the same thing as supporting the government.
Yeah, like watching Top Gun Maverick and loving that film for what it was, and it meaning something to you, thank you, is not mutually exclusive with like not wanting needless war.
Also, other countries aren't doing this. We are a unique country in that our country has an extreme desire to hate itself right now.
Yeah, and
I think that's very unique to us.
I think that's being perpetrated from Hollywood.
Yes. Oh yeah. 110%.
And like obviously Marilyn Monroe was not a political figure, but
JFK.
Because she represents sort of classical Americana.
Yeah. Well, there was
and also, you know, a quintessential like American woman,
powerful feminist.
Then
before feminism, I mean,
yeah, when you were allowed to be a woman,
when
and
it was
a
cool,
yeah.
like when it was like, yo, feminism is equal rights for men and women together. Like that's what the point of this is.
But you said she was warm, and that she had all these traits of being an actual feminine woman that are not in any way exalted in Hollywood anymore. A woman in Hollywood now is just a lighter version of a man.
Yeah, so like the reasons that people loved her are now the exact reasons she is being torn down with a fictionalized movie like this. It's about taking away her dignity. Like, truly, that's why I was disturbed by it. It's not because I like want to impose puritanical standards onto Hollywood and what can be shown. It's because it seemed intent on showing the most sordid things that she ever experienced, but also making up things about her life that we don't even know happened. The JFK affair, scandal, rumor, whatever you want to call it, that is played into so much and like mythologized so heavily. Yeah. And then this abortion that we don't even know whether or not she had one.
And I want to actually talk a little bit about how the idea that you're not allowed to not be, you can only be the most fervent of pro-choice, not even pro-choice anymore. You have to be pro-abortion.
Yeah, if you don't show Marilyn Monroe not only getting an abortion, but showing that she had 3 abortions in a row and she loved every minute of it.
And she threw a party after everyone.
And threw a party after each one.
That
you're anti-choice.
So this is a quote from Diablo Cody, who wrote Juno.
Okay.
She says, reflected on her 2007 dramedy featuring a teen pregnancy and adoption journey, she says, "I am emphatically pro-choice and have been my entire life. It is important to me to make that clear," Cody told The Hollywood Reporter. "But I can understand why people would misunderstand that movie. The movie, looking back on it, I can see how it would be perceived as anti-choice, and that horrifies me." So just by showing that another option even existed, remember that's the choice option in pro-choice. People believe that just by showing another option at all makes her anti the option that they're not showing.
Yeah,
that's
no
insane.
Possibility for nuance.
That's insane. It's like saying, okay, what would be a good example of that?
Like, you're like, I'm gonna go skating. I'm like, well, then you hate cooking.
Yeah, exactly. It's basically the same thing. It's absolutely bonkers, but that's the industry that they work in. So. Do you think they would have been better off making an actual documentary and trying to be even-handed, or is
there have been so many documentaries about her already? It's like what hasn't been said.
And let's face it, people love these days. It does feel like people love the absolute over-the-top stuff. Like I guarantee you, at least one person walked away from that Anne Boleyn thing and actually believed that Anne Boleyn was black. Mm-hmm. Like that's a thing. There's at least one person who believed that.
And because the things portrayed in this in Blonde aren't actually that outlandish, then there are a lot of people who are gonna watch it and take it as facts. And that's
That
I feel
scares the crap out-
defamatory.
That scares the crap out of me. Like
That's defamatory.
It breaks my heart for her, like for her and her family and her legacy, and it breaks my heart for like what that's going to do to our future as harsh retellings and dramatizations of all the things that made us who we are become fact in lieu of actual.
Dude, they could do it to Bruce Willis too. They can make, if they have his likeness, they can tell stories about his past. Entertainment now is teaching history.
Yeah.
You know, and so maybe there should be some rules and restrictions. I don't know. I'm not. I don't like throwing it at the government and be like, fix it.
As soon as we get to that's the problem, right? It's like we have this discussion, and as soon as you get to the idea of like maybe we should impose law, like, well, who's imposing the laws?
That's where I get trigger happy.
Mary gets very excited about getting
decency laws now.
And whereas I am more like, maybe I don't want to give a bunch of scumbags in government the power.
Yeah, we got to police it ourselves.
Yeah,
which is what we're doing right now by talking about it.
Yeah.
We're at least setting the groundwork for a self. You know,
and I don't have any plans of streaming Blonde because I think it's just gross.
Do I actually want like whoever? And I don't care political party, right? Like I don't want any more a bunch of Republicans having a right to make those decisions than I want a bunch of Democrats having the right to make those decisions about what's allowed and what isn't allowed.
Video games, man. I'm still waiting for them to put Hitler in one of the Civilization games.
Think
like
so?
They just have refused to do it for
Really?
for like 20 years. They won't use Hitler. They haven't used Hitler. It's so weird the way that they're like afraid.
Too
of
many
evil.
possibilities to get backlash.
Do
I
they
think.
use?
Freaking
Do
weird.
they use other?
They had Stalin one time.
Stalin,
Just
Mao?
one time. I think they had Mao one time.
Okay.
And then, but no Hitler. Like, what are they? What kind of history are they trying to teach? Like that. Frederick the First was the greatest German leader. I mean, Hitler was super evil, but evil people can be considered great. Genghis Khan,
I was going to say
Alexander the Great.
It's like
murder.
a guy named Bitler.
Yeah, really. But anyway, I'm just kind of. I'm basically like Civ is teaching history. Like the way that they teach the way cultures were in that game is the way people think cultures were. So
now sci-fi teaches the future.
That is terrifying. That should be terrifying. If you want a lighthearted way of looking at something like this in sci-fi, is there was a show called Warehouse 13, which I've mentioned many times, which it's a show where they find magical artifacts and then they have to like find them and lock them away because they have magical properties that can be misused. And the idea is that for every great invention or all these moments in history where something extraordinary happened, magic is created from the completion of that act. So like the plane that the Wright brothers got up in the air is imbued with magical properties, or an aspect of that plane is imbued with magical properties. And it actually gives a kind of lighthearted and a wholesome look back at a lot of history through a science fiction and fantasy lens.
So for people to like break the norms of reality, there requires magic?
Yeah, basically the idea that an extraordinary act the magic is created through the extraordinary behavior of humans accomplishing things.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Let's go to super chats. I need to stop watching YouTube said, when I did DMT, I knew nothing about it 5 minutes beforehand. Never had heard of the Jesters or seen Alex Gray's art, and I saw exactly that. Mind blown.
It's wicked, dude.
Do you think that was because he said he had no idea of it beforehand? Do you think there's a lot of like for people that like do a lot of research into these things before they do them?
Get
do you
preconceived
think that,
notions.
Do they get preconceived notions
Probably.
that end up becoming fulfilled?
Yeah, but this guy
maybe,
says
No,
he
that's what
saw
I'm
the
saying.
same thing.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, that twisting nature of reality kind of plays out visually.
I never, with all the years and all the stuff that I did, I never messed with anything.
Psychedelic?
No, I did a couple of things like one, but never heavily because I had I always felt my brain chemistry was too fragile.
It's not the kind of thing I've ever wanted to do heavily. Yeah. I mean, pot was a different story, maybe because it's psychoactive. It's not psychedelic. The really strong stuff is like once I do it, you do it once, and then it's like, whoa, I'm going to take some time to digest that experience. And it's like 2 years go by, and then you're like, maybe I could do that again at a different dosage. Just go easier. I don't know. That was my experience with
Most of the people that I knew that did them were looking for deeper truths and looking to find, to really get something from the experience. And my experience with drugs at that time was to escape, not to actually experience.
Yeah, by far the best experience I've had in psychedelics is when I was my most confident.
Okay.
And put together. And then it's like, I can handle this.
Yeah, I was not in that. I was not in that phase, but that's like those are two different people. Those are two different fundamental approaches or mindsets that you're in when you're using stuff like that. So.
I haven't done I tasted ayahuasca while I was in South America. Just tasted it. Tastes like grass tea, like really bitter grass juice. And I got a little bit of a DMT, but apparently you really see some dark stuff, like the really dark. So you should be in a very strong mental place.
That's the other thing is like I was always like when I was never a group user. I always used alone, and you should never be using most of those things on your own because
you're in a float tank.
Yeah, well, you should be doing it in a safer environment where somebody can help you if something happens.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got a lot of medical settings. I mean, or you guys just want to talk about psychedelics for an hour or something?
I know nothing about it, so
yeah, it's the big push with MAPS, the multidisciplinary action psychedelic, something like that.
Well, they're doing that a lot with like for testing for cures for depression or like right.
That
like
stuff is scary. The research into curing depression is like everything but treating the reason you might be depressed. We're gonna like use magnets on your brain. Like it's scary.
The MDMA stuff, they want communication to be the centerpiece of it. Like couples therapy, the MDMA kind of augments the actual communication itself, but it's the communication that kind of overrides the depression.
The problem is that with most of the drugs that we prescribe in America are supposed to be accompanied by further action beyond just taking the substance.
They never are.
But it very rarely, if ever, does. Right? Like,
I mean, if you lose a patient, if they get healthy, that's kind of the insurance agencies say to mine, which is freakish.
Caper2X said, "But seriously, Mary, do you feel warmer and more comfortable with the beanie?" Yes, I do. Brett, I almost called you BC's man toy. You're welcome.
I
what
like
does that mean?
Most gorgeous man or whatever he said better. Whatever he said. Maybe Brett Cooper.
Oh,
BC.
Gross. Guys, stop
British
it.
Columbia?
British Columbia.
Luis Aguilar said, Ian, I joined you during your meditation today at 11 PST. I prayed for my cousin's soul's ascent to heaven. He recently OD'd on opioids.
Oh, that's awesome.
Sorry to hear that.
Louis, I am really sorry to hear that. That is absolutely awful. I'm very sorry.
Wait, what did he mean? He joined you?
Oh, I was meditating at 2 p.m. I did a meditation. I announced it last night.
Oh.
5 minutes. I went for about 10. And I'm going to start doing that group meditation. I think that one of the things that the power of good needs to do is organize. And one way to do that is to set times that we all focus on something or choose to at least all be focusing. Doesn't have to be on the same thing.
Yeah.
We could try to do it on the same thing. We could be in each other's presence physically with video chat, which is like a high frequency, long range communication, or alone in our rooms together. You know, it
Sounds
doesn't really
like
matter.
going to church.
Yeah, dog. That's right.
Waffle Sensei said, we're going to have to shut you down because you had the wrong opinion. You made the choice to have an opinion which is not our choice opinion. Therefore, you are anti-choice. Makes sense.
That's how I feel about people not liking my take on Hugh Jackman coming back as Wolverine.
What don't you like about it?
I don't believe that there's a reason to continue that story. I think it was a beautiful send-off, and I don't see it with the comic
Feels
book,
cheap.
With the comic book landscape where it is now. There is no faith in my head that they're going to be able to recapture that magic in the same way. And why not allow for some permanence to allow stakes to feel like they actually exist in those worlds? I don't think they need to go there, but that's my opinion. We're still going to go see it, I'm sure, when it comes out. And if it's great, I am more than happy to be wrong. But even if it's great, doesn't mean it was necessary, is kind of what I'm saying.
So you're looking for a new actor?
I would rather leave that role alone for a while, maybe until they actually do the X-Men a whole.
The role of Wolverine?
Yeah. Until they go back to the X-Men, which, by the way, they might not be doing the X-Men. They might just be calling them mutants because X-Men is exclusionary.
Well, we're men. Come on, guys.
It's going to be X-Mixin.
X-Mixin. It's going to be great.
Dragon's Talon 1001 said, just for Mary's Beanie Baby.
Get it? Oh, you might even be
That's
too young
before
to
my
know
time.
what the heck a Beanie Baby is.
No, I've seen them.
I had a Tabasco. A very rare Beanie Baby.
Were you there for the Beanie Baby crash?
I was there for the Beanie Baby crash of 1999 or whatever year they crashed in.
Did you guys have trolls?
I had my dad had
their crazy hair. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
We had them growing up, and then my dad my dad was kind of like his his workroom, like where he did all his wood carving and everything. It was like a weird graveyard to all the weird toys that I didn't realize were still there. And there was like a shelf where there was just two trolls that he gave mohawks.
Do you know what I'm talking about? The trolls? Have you
Well,
seen those?
I know what they look like. I just
those
never
trolls?
had them growing
Oh,
up.
those things were weird.
Yeah. Cabbage Patch Dolls too.
Yeah, those were pretty cool. My neighbor friends had those.
Polly Pocket? If
I
Polly
had
Pocket-
those.
Never did.
I would
We
like
had-
chew
well,
on their rubber clothes.
You wouldn't have a Polly Pocket. We had Mighty Max. Boys had Mighty
What?
Max. Was
Yeah,
different.
Mighty
I've
I had
never heard
Muscle
of
Men.
this.
Did you guys have the Muscle Men?
No,
Dude, those guys are odd. There's like 100 of them. What was the one you just said?
Mighty Max.
Mighty Max.
it's the same thing. It's just for guys.
That's
for,
the Polly
Okay.
Pocket. For men.
For guys.
for dudes.
Because dudes rock.
Bros, bro.
Bro, dude.
James Orenthal Wen said the best appropriation of Barney was random show footage cleverly timed to Soulja Boy's Cranked At. That aside, good fight, good night.
I want to say, if there was a character similar to Winnie the Pooh that would be made into a fantastic horror movie now, I know that we
It's gotta
joke.
be Barney.
Barney would be spot on, given the story about the people in the random fear and urge to commit violence against Barney. Imagine they make a movie where Barney just keeps receiving those letters and he snaps.
Yeah.
And he
like-
goes on a streak.
When is he going to public domain?
It's going to be a while, I think, before Barney
Damn
goes
it.
public domain.
Yeah, you can make him vicious. Like he's like, I don't want to do this to you, and he's like, yeah, ripping people's jugulars out and stuff.
Amazing. Let's
Oh,
go.
he's
going on
I trusted you.
T-Rex tirade.
It's like I can't control
He
myself.
takes out the Teletubbies on his way to get rid of the
The
kids.
Teletubbies are actually scary.
Yeah, he should eat time. They should have Barney be the time destroyer. Like, he just consumes time.
Remember, like, the custard that the Teletubbies would eat? The pink sludge
I
they'd
didn't
eat?
watch the Teletubbies.
So
They
weird.
ate the paste.
Yeah.
Wow, they were prepping people early for this New World Order thing.
Bobcat said, Brett, you would be horrified if you knew just how many American movies were funded by communists, China's MSS, or the USSR's KGB.
Well, I know how much of a foothold China has in our investment here in America, but Russia, I did not know about. But I mean, it's not hard to believe when you have the ability to spread messages as far and wide as we do here with American film. That's not hard to believe in a increasingly globalist society that would be a thing.
Monkey D. Shane said, Brett and Mary, you're great. Ian, not enough time to rip into things you say that anger me, but if you can tell me what my handle is a play on.
What's the handle?
Monkey D. Shane? I looked it up, and I think it's something to do with drugs.
Monkey D. Shane.
I
No.
don't know.
I don't know.
No, I don't.
Johnny Derp said, Civ games taught me Gandhi equals a-hole. That is all.
Yeah, that was a bug in the original Civilization. in,
Yeah,
like,
that's
the 90s.
funny.
He would respond by nuking your country if you ever betrayed him, and they were like, "Oops!" But they became
Sure,
a meme,
it was
so
a
they stuck
bug.
with it. Yeah.
Walker,
He was the most peaceful.
Walker Texas Danger said, old buddy of mine megadose shrooms at a party, thought he got stuck in a time loop and jumped off a second-story balcony to escape it. Survived with a minor spine fracture, but caution is warranted.
Body was
Yeah.
probably loose from using the. It's kind of like, sadly, like when people do get drunk and get in car accidents, they a lot of times survive with very minimal injuries because their body's so loose from being drunk that they're basically, your body bends, it doesn't break.
Drugs are no joke, and I talk about them lightly once in a while because I have had great experiences with some of them, but you be very, very careful with stuff that warps your perception, man.
Waffles Sensei said, if Deadpool stinks, I'll super chat and admit you were right. If it's good, you admit I was right and you owe me $5 one day. Gentleman's bet. Are you going to give Waffle Sensei $5?
I'll tell you what. I will absolutely admit that it was good if it was good and that you were right. $5? How would we do that?
How do we even measure whether or not it stinks?
I would have to. Yeah. Well, I mean, the funny thing is,
You
that
could love it and you could hate it.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. Like he's saying, if I love it, if the movie's objectively good, if critics love it, I don't. Nobody cares what critics think. We'll have to discuss it when it comes out. But we got some time before then. By then, we might even be able to Neuralink money to one another in a couple of years. You never know. So we'll see.
I'll
when we
have
get
my
there.
Venmo QR code
There-
tattooed on my scalp or something. Matt said, have you seen Death to Smoochie? If so, thoughts?
I never saw Death
heard
to
of it.
Smoochie.
I didn't see
never-
What is this?
It's a great name. Or did I see it?
Death to Smoochie. It's a movie from 2002.
Yeah, it's old. It's got the big purple.
What's it about? Wow,
Thank
weird
you.
looking. Ed Norton plays the lead in that, apparently. Danny DeVito, Robin Williams, great cast. Danny DeVito directed it.
Yeah.
All right.
Did
It's
I
with a
see it?
Y, not an IE,
Maybe
though.
maybe Robin was the main character, but Edward's on the.
Interesting. Call Me Snow Possum said, Ian, if I say please, will you fake sneeze on IRL tonight? If yes, then please.
No.
No, no
No?
fake
No,
sneeze.
I don't play your games.
Achoo.
Maybe.
Do
I'll
it,
do
but
it.
make it really, really obviously fake. Go, achoo. It's just in the middle of the show.
Well, you did say please. Tune in to find out.
Why does he want you to sneeze?
I don't know. Just interact. You
Interesting.
want power. You want to feel powerful. You know.
That's
You've-
so true.
You've
That's why
changed
they made
something
me wear
out
the
there
beanie.
beyond your own body.
That's yeah, it's all a power
You're
thing.
involved.
Well, they
It's
got
a
me
group process.
They got me with the hair, so that's what it is.
Telling
We
you,
love
man,
it, guys.
we're part of a collective.
All right, we're gonna move on, and we're gonna talk about the fact that when men in society, guys, they are told to be more emotional. They're told to share their feelings. They're told to be vulnerable.
And Olivia Wilde just said, F you. No.
Ben Shapiro defends Jordan Peterson crying at Olivia Wilde's incel insult, which is
So-
say that 10 times fast.
It's insult, insult.
Keep going.
Insult. I can't do it. She revealed that the villain in Don't Worry, Darling, played by Chris Pine, is actually based on Jordan Peterson. We talked about this when it came out. She said, we based this character on an insane man, Jordan Peterson, who is a pseudo-intellectual hero to the incel community that legitimizes certain aspects of their movement because he's a former professor, an author, he wears a suit. So they feel like this is a real philosophy that should be taken seriously. So
This is one of the most abhorrent contradictions. Like,
Yeah.
she's clearly never actually listened to a word he said. The idea of her being able to label what a pseudo-intellectual was is bonkers. Calling Jordan P. Like, and
if
I'm not-
anyone is a pseudo-intellectual, it's Olivia Wilde, because she has no depth and she's trying to make artistic commentary.
and the idea that in an age where you can just really blatantly disregard any desire men have to like be better, like outside of the realm of like the feminist lens, right? So like they're not allowed to have their own needs or their own fears or their own concerns, because why do you get your fears, concerns, and worries when the patriarchy is still in place? So she gets to just dismiss all of that and dismiss Jordan Peterson, all in favor of a movie that made $19 million. Though I do want to point out it did do better than they thought it would. I don't know if it's what I would call a successful movie, but
Well-
it doesn't necessarily make it unsuccessful. It could do much better down the road. But I just want to point out that
Her
she-
villainization of Jordan Peterson is just one thing on the huge stack of bad PR for this movie. It was only the beginning, and then there was the Jason Sudeikis serving papers thing, and then so on. Like, just a slew of bad PR for this movie that probably increased interest for it. But Jordan Peterson was asked to respond to her comments about basing this villain off of him on Piers Morgan Uncensored, and I wish we could show it because
we can't.
we can't because of copyright. But he did shed tears. He
kind of. Like,
he did
yes.
in the end of the video, but he was like very much tearing up at the beginning and end of the conversation. But his basic response to it was like, to being called the hero of the incel community was like, why not? Why not be a hero to the incel community? Because what that community is essentially isolated, disempowered, disenfranchised young men who don't have a hero. So why is it bad to be their hero and to be portrayed that way in media? Why?
Also, is it weird that they get to both simultaneously say that men have all the power in society while laughing at the men that supposedly don't? Like, they just
Right.
get to dismiss them out of pocket as like, why would I have any sympathy for your movement if you have no sympathy for people who did nothing to you?
And that was basically his point.
Yeah.
He said, people have been after me for a long time because I've been speaking to disaffected young men. What a terrible thing to do that is. I thought the marginalized were supposed to have a voice. It's very difficult to understand how demoralized people are, and certainly many young men are in that category. you get these casual insults, these incels. What do they mean? Is it like these men, they don't know how to make themselves attractive to women who are very picky? And good for them. Women, be picky. That's your gift. Demand high standards from your men. Fair enough. But all these men who are alienated, it's like they're lonesome and they don't know what to do, and everyone piles abuse on them. Exactly. And then to be...
While claiming that you're doing it under the cloak of something good. That's the worst part.
To be portrayed as a villain simply for giving these people a voice, which I don't even know whether that's true or not. Do incels like Jordan Peterson that much? He seems like a relatively mainstream voice.
It's really funny because a bunch of the comments on here are like Jordan Peterson's remaining fans. And then like
that's ridiculous.
And then I was like flicking through my phone as I'm doing that, and I like clicked on Jordan Peterson's story, and he's like upcoming dates like Belgium, like he's got all these speaking dates in all these countries. So he doesn't have remaining fans. He has a huge platform and a huge audience still, but they have to subjugate and make it and subvert what you think it is by making him seem less than he actually is.
I get the feeling that like the last 20 years has been really rough on American children. First it's the war in Iraq and Afghanistan that sends all these adults to go fight in a war that turns out that was for fraudulent reasons. They didn't have nuclear weapons. They didn't have the weapons of mass destruction. Osama bin Laden and what's his name, the Iraqi president, they weren't friends. And Saddam Hussein. And then so we fight this fallacious war of basically resource gathering. And kids are told it's normal, so they grow up in this state of psychosis, thinking this is normal to be a colonizing aggressor. Okay, it's not. And then the opioid epidemic is making it so parents, either the dad's not around or someone's high in the house, and the kid gets on some sort of Ritalin at 9, so they don't grow up with a strong male figure, like a legitimate male strength. So they look to one, and they found Donald Trump in 2016. So if the choice is Donald Trump or Jordan Peterson, and the kids need something, I'm going with Mr. Rogers, man. 21st century Mr. Rogers is where it's at. This is what Jordan's doing. He's filling the role of telling kids you're good enough.
It's not even about telling kids you're good enough. It's about like you're not good enough and you can take responsibility for that.
Shoulder your burdens.
That's his mantra, is like literally clean your room. Yep. He is telling incels like,
I don't even like using that term because it's such a loaded term.
I mean, it is absolutely, it's absolutely a loaded term.
He's telling disenfranchised young men who may or may not have had sex before. Okay,
according to Olivia Wilde, she's. I mean, probably because she's heard relatively little from or about Jordan Peterson.
I guarantee you she knows nothing
made
about
her, made like this whole mythologized view of who he is and what he stands for. But if she actually did listen to him, then she would hear the mantra of personal responsibility throughout all of his work and his authorship.
I don't know if I'd actually agree that she believes in what I think she would actually take issue with what he believes, because I don't think it actually falls in line with her worldview. I don't think she wants to think of the idea of taking responsibility for your own actions. I think she wants to think of the idea of everyone being held down and then having to answer and then having society have to answer for the fact that they couldn't succeed.
Olivia Wilde thinks that Jordan Peterson is telling these young men, you are put upon, it's everyone else's fault, and there's nothing you can do. And if she listened to him, she would realize it's the opposite. But she doesn't want to do that because she's Olivia Wilde. She wants to make an annoying, pretentious, preachy movie.
It would be interesting to have somebody play her clips of him.
And I hope that she actually sees this clip of this interview, because you can see that it really actually upsets him to be villainized simply for aiming to give marginalized, like legitimately marginalized, silenced people a voice. And I agree with Ben Shapiro's take on this. His basic defense is like, you're calling out Jordan Peterson for speaking to disenfranchised young men and poisoning them against women of today. But you actually failed to make a comfortable work environment for women on your set, Florence Pugh. So she casts her boyfriend to do intimate scenes with Florence Pugh, whom she already dislikes, and then condescendingly behind closed doors she will call her Miss Flo. She wants to keep Shia LaBeouf on her cast even though Florence Pugh is uncomfortable around him. after he has faced allegations of sexual battery, begs him to stay, and he voluntarily leaves the film. She resents Florence Pugh for not sucking it up and working with him anyways. Casts her boyfriend as a replacement, which would never be accepted from a male director dating a subordinate on your...
I don't know about that.
I mean,
it's not the point of this.
Even if it wouldn't be accepted, it would definitely be mentioned, criticized.
Yeah. This sounds like theater school drama. I went to theater school.
That's exactly what has surrounded all of this film's PR, and that's the entire reason anyone's heard of it.
Well, my advice is do not take anything these people say about morality seriously, because they're crazy theater actors.
That's what the number one point. I was like, I had a friend when I was in college. He's like, you want right when Me Too happened. I'm sorry, not in college. And he's like, have you ever met a theater nerd?
Yeah. Okay.
He's like, and then now give them all the money and power. Of course, this stuff is going to happen.
I'll augment what I said. Don't not take anything they say seriously about morality. Just question what they say about morality, because they are nuts. People in the theater, people that feel like they need to be in the theater to be normal, are crazy. They're looking for something outside of themselves to be happy. Take that stuff with a grain of salt.
Also, is it kind of one of those things where it's not your job as a content creator or as a professor you can't control your audience? You don't get to decide who your audience is.
But I think that people in Hollywood have a fundamental misunderstanding of that, because when they create movies or shows and they're not received the way they intended, they freak the F out. Like with The Boys.
It's not even art at that point. By that point, it is just propaganda, because you're not allowed to take it however you want to. You have to take it the way they intended.
The showrunners of The Boys were extremely dissatisfied with how that content was received, because in satirizing this, in satirizing superheroes, they were trying to do political commentary that criticized the so-called alt-writers that they hate so much. And then when those people enjoyed their product, they were like, hey, you like our thing for the wrong reasons. Yeah. Which... it's extremely it seems like a violation of conscience. Yeah. It seems like you're trying to make compulsory feelings about what you made, when really, if it didn't strike the chord that you wanted it to, is that not your own fault?
It used to be that that they liked it when art was left open to interpretation. Yeah. Now that's outlawed.
So now that that's outlawed, they want academia to follow suit. And if you're an author, a speaker, or any kind of public intellectual, if your message is not received exactly how they want it to be received, that is the public's fault.
Incel King and defender of the incels, Jordan Peterson, rejects the Incel King title. Well, that kind of throws water on the idea that he's the Incel King if he rejects the title, is it not?
Yeah.
So it says it says that this is a journalist, a very, very smug and self-satisfied journalist named Patsy Stevenson.
But they're all smug and self-satisfied.
Who spoke out about Peterson refusing to empathize with him, saying notice how every time something like this happens, Jordan Peterson's full of empathy and everybody else is very much not full of empathy.
He is cripplingly
empathetic.
Sincere.
So it says, Jordan, babes, incels are murdering women because we say no to them. What? She wrote this on Twitter. Go look at an incel Reddit page and come back to me saying we should empathize with incels instead of reprimanding them for being abusive. He's not running those Reddit pages. He's speaking to a larger populace that has nothing to do with individuals. He's talking about ideas.
Well, you can also empathize with someone and criticize them for being abusive.
Yes.
In fact, you should. If you have a child that's abusing their friends, you got to empathize with why and where they're coming from, but also
call out
punish
what they're
them.
Doing wrong,
and criticize and take care of the problem directly as well.
I've just never found that whenever this stuff happens that there's any actual empathy coming from the other side, and they kind of like we joke about the term about the tolerant this, the tolerant that. They're not even that anymore. They're not tolerant.
Yeah,
there is a lack of tolerance in society right now, I've noticed.
The projection from Olivia Wilde is just insane. To call Jordan Peterson a pseudo-intellectual.
Imagine how insulting
when
that is to
she is
him.
the sued. Like,
Yes.
her movie is the commentary on like gender dynamics that, and it's not a good story. It was only meant to be a message.
This is a problem with people of a low intelligence that aren't intellectuals. When they see intellectualism, they don't know what it is. So they say that's not intellectualism because they have an idea of what they think it is.
They can't recognize it for like not an agenda.
Like this theater nerd's probably not an intellectual if she's, I don't know her, so I don't want to criticize her. But the statements that I'm hearing she's making are like not well thought out.
Also, I want to point out that there's a big issue that I've noticed now that a lot of like, it's a problem I wish I had, in which a lot of people can speak well, but don't actually have much behind what they're saying, meaning that you say a lot of words without saying much at all.
Media trained celebrities
yes.
are the paramount examples of that.
You listen to them talk, and it's beautifully phrased. It's for the most part usually cogent and done in a way that gets their point across very quickly, but has no actual meat behind the words, right? So you can listen to her describe her movie that she's making, and she puts it's kind of happening in Rings of Power too. Like I'm seeing a script that has like these reviews that describe it as this beautiful thing, but the actual imagery doesn't match up with what I'm reading. So it's this weird inability it's almost too much ability to vocalize something that's not actually there, when if it was actually as authentic and meaningful as what you say, you wouldn't need to speak about it in such a way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, pop culture criticism definitely is like, it's so verbose and artistic in its language.
Stuck up.
It's stuck up, and then you go and watch the actual product that they're analyzing, and take it for what it is, and it doesn't live up to the same glory.
I don't got that problem because I never one of my biggest issues is I feel like I never actually verbalize what I want to say in the best way possible. It's a constant battle. So it's actually kind of maybe it's just jealousy. Maybe I'm like, I wish I could bullshit as well as these celebrities bullshit.
You have said that you're articulate in writing.
I can
more
write
than talking out loud.
Yes.
And it's easy to do that, and then celebrities kind of flip that around. They're media trained, they know how to answer questions tactfully and twist the narrative around. So like every time Olivia Wilde is getting asked about the feuds and drama and allegations around her film and not about the film itself, she's able to twist them for the right PR outcomes.
She also says it was a dream to work with all of these evolved men on this movie. By the way, what they mean by evolved men is men
Same thing they mean when they say James Bond is evolving.
What they mean by that is that they're submissive to what they want.
Yeah. So like James Bond evolving, James Bond becoming an evolved man means that he is efficiently like subservient to women.
Yes.
Are you sure it doesn't mean that they have psychic powers?
That would be even good.
I wish it did.
I wish it did. That would be much
if
cooler.
only.
That's the evolution.
So it's like all of this exists on the back of the fact that society is so far advanced now, right? Feminism dies when society collapses. Everyone knows that, right? No.
Probably the women and the children are the first to suffer.
Yes.
Or the ones that'll suffer the worst, unfortunately.
So she built on the backs of men that build, like Jordan Peterson has that famous bit where he talks about men who built the infrastructure of society and stuff like that. She literally is allowed to spout her nonsense because of the people that he talks about in a lot of his videos, which is like men who go through society. They have thankless jobs that nobody gives them credit for, yet they're blamed for everything that goes wrong in society because of the patriarchy, meaning the top 1% of men that they will never be, but that's built on the backs of these men who he's trying to champion, and she's still crapping on him.
I mean, in a possibly hopeless attempt to empathize with Olivia Wilde here, I'll say she has a job where she interacts with the worst men in society. And
so it skews her vision.
It skews her perception of gender dynamics and of how men are and what they care about and everything. Like
that's a fair comparison, I think.
So I think maybe that's why a lot of females in Hollywood have such a disgust and disdain for men.
Yeah.
Because they interact with the most disgusting, greedy, lying sack of beep
and not actually
men
in our
society, and not masculine.
Yeah,
the ones who look the most masculine, the most like buff and clipped and manicured dudes who pretend to be artistic and awakened and politically correct, but actually like treat people in their lives like shit. Yeah. That's who she interacts with. I understand why she might come to the wrong conclusions about men.
That's a fair, I think, yeah, like you can't discount a person's
that's all
life
of Hollywood.
experience.
They hate humanity because they interact with the worst corners of it.
If we're going to criticize a lack of empathy, it's incumbent upon us to at least try to understand where her position evolves from, right?
Even though I want to be like, well, you have disgust for the general public, then F you. I want to just disregard it.
Yeah. So
let's go to Super Chats.
Do it.
Matt said, people like Peterson and Tate trying to end simping is a direct financial attack on the boss girl. Get your bag types. It's like Big Worm says in Friday.
I don't know. Do you think that's? I mean, I think of it more as like
the simps are never going to listen. Though.
No.
So that's not really having an effect.
Tate would probably be honestly more effective at that because he's so hyperbolic in the way he does it that he'll probably inspire all the wrong messages. Like they won't take the percentage of what he says that's actually good advice.
Yeah.
They'll take the hyperbole, and that will be the stuff that gets elevated, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I've gone through a hilarious phase of watching like people reacting to Andrew Tate, and it's absolutely watching women react to Andrew Tate is maybe my favorite guilty pleasure as of recent. Like, I don't know if they're playing it up for the camera, but just the looks on their faces when he says anything.
It's just hilarious. Depressing to me because I'm just watching like one lost person react to another lost person who doesn't understand life or like who they are or what they're like, why we're even here. And it's just like,
I think he understands it better than he lets on. I think he does it. Like we had that thing where it says like where he plays a character. I think there's a strong element of
if it's all a character, then that's more damning.
Yeah, I think there's a strong element of what would be considered social media showmanship to what he does.
Yeah. I don't know.
But the problem is then the lines get blurred and you don't know what's real and what isn't.
Yeah,
it's difficult.
James DeGrace said, I want to recommend the best sci-fi books you've ever heard of. The Commonwealth series by Peter F. Hamilton. First book is Pandora's Star.
Is there an audiobook version? That's what I ask you.
Do you listen to audiobooks? I do. I can't do it because I want to multitask, but then if I do that, I can't listen. I can listen to a podcast while I multitask, but like a book, I really have to at least read along.
It's a completely different experience. Usually what would happen is I would have to listen to it more than once to get it. Because like you said, it used to be a big thing that if I was working, I would listen to audiobooks while I was working, but you're only catching a quarter, half at the most, if you're actually trying to multitask, which then screws you over for your actual work because you're not actually paying full attention to what you're doing with your work either.
Yeah, I was listening to this podcast where a school teacher was talking about how he learned to read books for enjoyment instead of for like the ability to regurgitate it to the children he teaches. It's like when he reads very slowly and makes sure that he digests every little detail.
Yeah.
Even when it's not for a class. And I realized, since starting this job, like I've been reading things really, really slowly for no reason. Yeah. Because I think I'm going to have to talk about it later.
I have a very hard time. Me and Mary work on very, very different schedules. We start picking out, I have to start doing my research the night before because I am literally so bad at reading that I have to read it several times over to really get to process it before I can even start forming my own opinions, right? Because the first half has to be reading it, and then the second half has to be, what is my opinion on what the hell I just read?
So there's a difference between reading something and understanding something.
It takes a long time for me to get there. So a lot of times, if there's something I really want to talk about, I need to find it early so that I have more time to think about and actually kind of digest what I took in. So.
Yeah.
I will be right back.
Okay.
Just so you know.
Intermission for Ian Crossland. Yes. Joseph said, "Psychs don't change who you are, Ian." Of course you're going to address Ian just as he leaves. They bring down your defenses so you can look at yourself honestly. Existential terror is real. I'll agree there, but they don't change who you are.
I should come back to that one when he gets back.
Yeah, I want to hear his input on that. Because it really makes psychs seem more sinister than they are. Like, they do just have a normal job.
Is he talking psychedelics or psych meds?
Well, we were also talking about therapy, too.
Okay.
So, whatever. JJ said, Mary, go back on Timcast. We miss your based takes and sleepy girl vibe. It wasn't a vibe. Like, I literally was just sleepy.
It's like long work day. Long work day.
And that was also back when pop culture would be like closer to 2 hours rather than 3.
Yeah.
And
today's probably going to be.
So, like, if I went back to doing IRL, then realistically I would be on camera for like 6 hours a day. In a day, and that's a lot, but yeah, I'm open to going back on. It's just depending on if they need another seat, because Luke is here now.
Yeah,
Luke was gone and Seamus was gone, so that seat was open then.
There's there's a Luke there now, a big booty Luke.
I thought he had the prosthetic boobs.
That too.
He has a prosthetic butt now too. What happened?
It looked ridiculous. It was
okay.
It was hilarious. I saw him practicing. I didn't see the actual episode. I saw him doing his dry runs before.
Got it.
Yes.
Okay. Walker, Texas Danger said, boo-hoo, I'm Olivia Wilde. Jordan Peterson is bad. Boo-hoo, sexists need to acknowledge my genius now. Snore.
I don't know if that's I mean, yes, that's absolutely true. But we still have to be, like we were talking earlier, like maybe we're doing our part just by talking about it. Maybe a little bit of pushback is what they need to actually remember that they aren't the center of the universe and that there are people that see the world differently than them.
I know they get plenty of pushback, but maybe not in the format that we do it.
Yeah.
Rascal King said, the Rascal King wishes everyone a good weekend. Thank you, Rascal King.
Rascal King, we wish you a fantastic weekend.
Yes. Waffles Sensei said, if Jordan Peterson can give boys a path to truly strong manhood, then women will have to arise to truly strong womanhood instead of easily acquiring a bunch of whimsical dress-wearing femme dudes.
It does, like, I wonder how much of it
Everyone needs to step it up. I think we all know that.
I do wonder how much of it is just they have no actual, like, experience with, like, masculine men of any sort.
If you're in Hollywood, obviously, I just kind of came to this realization thinking about Olivia Wilde and, like, why is she so insufferable?
Yeah.
Well, the women she interacts with on a daily basis, probably equally insufferable, usually.
And then
men like Harry Styles, who are not men.
Not in any traditional sense of the word. Though it would be really funny if we find out that Harry Styles is like, I changed my own oil. I can change my own car tire.
I doubt it.
But maybe. I'm always open to being surprised.
Have a wild card in there.
Yeah, he's really into like hunting.
I don't know.
He keeps it hidden, but he's really into hunting.
I doubt it.
He does survival training courses just for the fun of it, but then has to go to work and put on this really, really feminized persona.
And then, like, in reality, Chris Pratt is, like, into painting his nails and watches Queer Eye. I don't know.
Here's guys, here's a little bit of a thing to mention before while we wait for Ian to get back, is that they are doing season 3 of Jack Ryan. I don't know if you guys like Jack Ryan season 1. I know anybody who watches this show likely would despise Jack Ryan season 2, where they somehow blame the fall of Venezuela on right-wing nationalism. But the first season of Jack Ryan was more than serviceable, and season 3 looks to be coming out around Christmas time this year. So that is one to look forward to.
Ian is back.
What's up? Ian is back.
Someone had a comment directed at you, Ian. They said, psychs don't change who you are, Ian. They bring down your defenses so you can look at yourself honestly. Existential terror is real. I'll agree there, but they don't change who you are.
Well, I would debate that, because I think that your environment's constantly changing you, that your environment being the food you eat, your surroundings, the noise, changes your physiology. But, interesting concept. I really do think that you're doing most of the changing internally, but what we think is free choice, free will, the environment kind of, is making us think that maybe. I don't know.
I mean, I could see the idea that your own brain puts up defense mechanisms to help to keep certain aspects of your personality at bay, or to keep yourself from accepting or admitting truths about yourself, things you don't even want to admit maybe to your, internally, right? Like I've talked a lot about the idea of knowing what to talk about and when to talk about in relation to your personal experience, like especially if you've gone through something traumatic. Like you have to learn how to be open with people, but you also have to learn how to guard certain things if you haven't learned how to process those yet.
You got to be honest, but you want to be discerning. Honesty doesn't mean you say everything you're thinking at all times.
So psychedelics, maybe the idea that they lower your defenses, so even something that you can't yet admit to yourself might be more easy to digest with something that brings down those defenses.
For sure. Yeah, it gets you in touch with the animal. That's one thing I've noticed a lot is you really realize that you are piloting an animal. This body is an animal, and it's like its own life form that you're kind of working in synergy with, you being the brain and the brain stem floating thing inside the saltwater sack.
So
saltwater sack. It's horrible to think about.
Mary's like,
98.6 degree sack of salt water.
Mary's like, I did not want that description of the human form to be a salty sack. Are we gonna talk about Lord of the Rings? Are we gonna talk about Lord of the Rings?
I mean, why not?
We might as well do it, guys. We're going to Podluck, and we're gonna fly by Lord of the Rings.
We always say we're gonna fly by it, and then we get mad and go for like 15 minutes. But we're gonna try to keep it short.
Okay, so episode 6.
Thoughts? I'm less angry than usual, and it's only because this episode, in my opinion, was one of the most boring, even though it has more action than the last 5 episodes combined.
What the big thing that they missed out on here? First of all, it had the first scene in recorded history where Galadriel didn't suck.
That's not true.
Yes, it did.
Are you talking about her scene where she's sitting by Halbrand?
No, at the very beginning with her on the boat with Isildur.
Okay, why did you think that
I just liked it? I couldn't tell you why. It felt
character development.
Yes, a little bit.
So that means it was planned all along.
I mean, I'll contest that, but I enjoyed her scene with him. I thought that they had a good exchange on the boat, and I thought that there was just a certain level of the way she presented her character. Like when she smiled, it felt like authentic to me for once, whereas every other time she's ever done it, she literally looks like it's paining her to say anything, to put a smile on her face. I also want to point out that this episode was far more narrowly focused in the people
because they only.
So all you dealt with here was Bronwyn, Arendir, and everyone there, and then Numenorians and the orcs, right?
And they finally intersect.
So you're not going from group to group to
so
group.
There's no.
We kind of mentioned this week. There's no 5 seconds here, and then we're over here for 5 seconds, and over here for 5 seconds. You get a
Nori,
lot more.
no Durin, no Disa, no Elrond, which is kind of unfortunate because those are our favorites.
The hope would be that the next episode is all them.
The next episode, I hope, will be all them.
I do want to point out that. Bronwyn, I thought, carried herself very, very well in the emotional scenes, but just not in anything that involved like fighting or anything like that.
Bronwyn is boring.
She's boring. When she actually had a scene where her and Arendir are talking about how they're going to end up together after all of this.
I literally puked in my mouth.
I
hate it. There's no explanation of why they even like each other. Like, when have we ever seen a warm, like, lighthearted moment between them where they're not just staring at each other like?
Because it was supposed to be like their very first meeting out by that well is supposed to be like deep longing, but back in episode 1, like there's this.
But why?
Scene, but there's no explanation as to where the deep longing comes from.
They don't have any shared experiences.
But I do want to point out that there was 2 things in the scene where this is where my analytical brain is going to. I might lose some people here. When they show the scene where Bronwyn and Arendir kiss. They start in an extreme close-up, like a 1-to-1 close-up of their faces, and then when they finally kiss, they cut to an ultra-wide.
I saw that,
It made no sense to see what you do. They shoot for coverage in these scenes, so there's likely a middle shot too, right? That's waist up. So you go from the wide, you cut to the middle, and then you cut into the close-up when they finally embrace, or back to the middle. You don't cut to a wide when all the emotion is happening far away.
This was shot weirdly.
You could end on the wide, but you got to take it to the close-up during the kiss. I agree.
But they literally cut to the wide as the kiss happens. It makes no sense whatsoever. And then later, when I know I'm going off on like a weird ADHD.
It's okay.
There's another scene later where Bronwyn gets shot with an arrow, and they have to remove the arrow. She does well here, looking like she's in a lot of pain. But then they do this part where she like, it's like have either of you guys ever seen the Mighty Ducks or Mighty Ducks 2?
Oh yeah, a long time ago.
There's a very funny scene in Mighty Ducks 2, okay, where the very last shot in the movie, like the guy takes a slap shot, and there's supposed to be a long pause where you like, how do we know if he scored or not? Where in reality, you would know right away if the shot went in. There isn't a long dramatic pause, but they hold for the shot for like 5 seconds, and then it's revealed that the goalie caught the puck with their glove. That's not actually how the real world works. Like, you would know whether the puck passed them or not. But in this scene, they shoot it with as if there's supposed to be this long pause. Is she alive? Is she not? And there's literally negative tension on screen. It is edited so poorly that you there's no, is she alive? Is she alive? Is she dead? You're just like waiting for her to be alive because you know that she is. It's not done well with the music. It's not cut well. It's rookie level stuff that they should not be having problems with. Also, there was some truly bad insert CGI shots of Galadriel on the boat, and also with the horse later on that really took me out of it even more than normal.
Which ones?
It's in the middle of the battle. I can't.
Where she goes through the forest?
Yes. Maybe I'll take a screenshot of it later.
But like this, you're right that this was shot weirdly. The scene where we're waiting to find out if Bronwyn is alive.
Yes. Had
that complete lack of tension or suspense, because you just know that it's going to do the stereotypical thing where she seems like she's dead, she's got her eyes closed, and then
she's alive. Oh my god,
hate it. And then and I don't know, I wish that they didn't do those close-ups on her bleeding wounds when you can't even show a kiss scene close-up.
Yeah, like,
what is this?
They also showed all of the orc violence from about mid-level shots
and in complete darkness.
Yes.
It was weird. And then also when they were talking, when Galadriel and Halbrand were like trying to interrogate Adar, they were filmed from these crooked ass angles.
in the barn area. Yes, that was done. I'm guessing on purpose.
Why?
I don't know why.
It was so like.
I
was like turning my head like, what?
And
am I supposed to be looking at?
Into the story, we're like the story is almost nonsensical at this point. Like, you don't care. Like, I don't care.
And then Adar goes into his whole life story after all they asked was like, "Where's Sauron?"
Yep.
He was refusing to ask or to answer questions before that.
It
just makes no sense.
I thought that Theo did fine for his stuff here. That he could have been far worse. Given his role of being like, he's attracted to the object. He wants to help out, but he's a child. Like, there's some good stuff there from a young actor that I thought was fine. Given the fact that if it had gone bad, it could have gone really bad.
The part at the end where Arendir hands him what is this thing called? Do we know what this?
I don't know what it's called.
Sigil.
Yeah.
I'll just call it the sigil. I don't know. Where Arendir hands him what he thinks is the sigil. It makes no sense because directly before that, Theo said, "When I hold it, I feel powerful." Why would you then just hand it to him and let it be like up to his discretion whether or not he discards it in the ocean?
And also, there's the
what the hell?
There's the Galadriel and the Halbrand. They do try to like. They both kind of like.
I like them.
They kind of lecture each other about like not getting like angry
about not killing Adar.
Yeah, and then it's literally the next. That's the thing. It's not separated between two scenes. It's literally the next scene.
Yes.
She's like, "You can't do that.
We need him alive." And then
come back, and
next
then
scene, she's got her like knife to his neck,
and he's like, "You can't do that."
It's like, we get it.
We get it. You're pulling.
But also, she doesn't have like a personal history with Adar, so
I thought this was the best episode she's had so far.
I really liked the scene with her and Halbrand after they were interrogating Adar.
What were they talking about?
When they, he like
becomes when they like announce him as like King of the Southlands.
No. When he was like in the forest with her and
oh yeah,
he was like, I don't know what he said. Another problem with this episode and like really all of the episodes is that they're always speaking in this high fantasy poetic language when someone asks a matter of fact question like what is the name of Isildur's father? Whatever. Yeah. Galadriel asked him how his wife died.
He's good. That guy's good too. I like that guy. The guy who plays Isildur's.
He's all right.
Elendil?
Yeah.
Galadriel asked Elendil how his wife died, and he goes into this stupid like poetic analogy about sailing into the dawn, and it feels like the coming of the night.
And his wife
and then he was like,
"My wife,
she drowned," and then he walks away. Like there's just constant stupid poetic idioms being said that don't have anything to do with for the amount of dialogue that happens with no action. It's just like so stupid and boring.
Dang, man, that sounds like Shakespeare for me. I used to be like, God, he takes like 8 sentences to say one thing, and then every once in a while he'll be like, no. Yeah. And you go, okay, that's better than like,
this is why
apart from what I think, though I will get down to brass tacks, in and of itself is a great thing. I would purport that I don't.
At least like just say Shakespeare had good idioms.
I do, but
Rings of Power has stupid ones.
This is saying this sounds like really, really bad amateur writers.
Who wrote it? It's not Tolkien. Did Tolkien
first-time showrunners?
First-time showrunners and writers who are not skilled enough to.
And these lines are being said by relative nobody actors.
Yes. Okay. Here's the thing: the Peter Jackson movies had actual dialogue pulled from Tolkien books to fit with the rest of the dialogue, right? They don't have that here, so they're trying to like create facsimiles.
Doing a bad job of mimicking.
Yeah, they're trying to create facsimiles so what they would imagine Tolkien would have written here. The problem is they're not him.
Yeah,
so they can't do that.
Interesting, right?
And it's just it doesn't work. And to me, I give this show a lot of leeway because, first of all, it's like what you said about Shakespeare. One of the reasons high fantasy has never really worked for me is that type of dialogue doesn't draw me in.
It's ridiculous in modern. It's an ancient language.
It doesn't draw me in. And we've acknowledged more than a few times, like, look, I am not a Lord of the Rings super fan. I've seen the movies once, never read the books. So I'm the target audience here. I'm literally who they should be making the show for, right? Normies who have no connection to the source material but are looking for something fun to watch, and they're not accomplishing their goals here.
The writers are messing it up.
Yeah, the writers are not, and it's being done by actors who don't have the screen presence to pull off such mediocre lines. There's maybe some talented actors. If you gave Viggo Mortensen some of these lines, maybe he could elevate this material. I don't think so, but if you had those higher paid actors, those ones with more stage presence, they could possibly pull this material off. I don't think they could, though. It's just not good.
I'm surprised that you thought this was the least boring episode so far.
Well, okay, here's
although it had the most action, it was just like terribly done.
But here's the other thing. This is another one of their huge missed opportunities here. They could have taken the first battle before the Númenóreans showed up and moved that to a previous episode to give that episode a bit more action, and then had that scene pick up in this episode.
I didn't understand why Waldreg then lived through the battle where they were fighting their own defectors.
Yeah.
Waldreg was seemingly just fine. Like, did he just run off with
They always just get away.
And then he had this key to a dam, and then somehow the dam... why is there something so significant about this random village in the Southlands? Why? Why? And why is there a volcano there?
I watched a couple of reviews for this one because I wanted to get, like, I don't usually do that. I don't usually watch reviews before we talk about this stuff because, like, I know how little I know about this stuff. We're just kind of talking about it because it's kind of interesting to see how all this falls apart. And apparently the ratings are not as awful as as people have thought. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that anything short of incredible ratings is worth the amount of money that got spent on this. You don't have
and worth the desecration of the originals.
Yeah, you don't get to take Tolkien's name and then create something that has, oh look, the ratings aren't that bad. When you spend $1 billion,
it wasn't a total failure.
When you spend $1 billion, you do not get to settle for it's not that bad.
It should have been better than the first one, or don't make it.
Yeah,
that's my opinion.
And you can't do that, really.
So it says, but even Numenor's triumph doesn't last too long before Adar utterly outplayed his opposition with some clever sleight of hand and use of a loyal agent. We've been warned of Sauron's plans for the Southlands, and apparently when he got engrossed trying to figure out the Shadow Realm connected to the One Ring, Adar decided to execute the scheme on his own. He really wasn't kidding about reshaping Middle-earth. When the key first twisted, it seemed like it was just going to cause a devastating flood. Watching the mechanics of the device flow under the water, hit the magma, and triggered a devastating volcanic reaction. That actually looked fine.
I mean, I don't really care as much about how it looks, but like, does it make sense? None of it makes sense to me, so I don't really care.
So it's just, I just wanted to drive by this quickly. I don't actually.
And what
have
was
a whole
with
lot
like
to
a
say.
seeming suicide attempt from Galadriel at the end, where she just like closes her eyes and like
let it
waits
take me,
for the lava to I don't even know what that was.
It is what it is. I say, do you want to just move on? I don't have anything else.
I have a couple of chats I wanted to read because they're funny. Someone says still no rings in the series. Da fuck. And then another person said there's a place for fun mid-level TV crap, but turning Tolkien into Xena warrior princess is wrong.
They're right. Like it says, as somebody who loves mid-level TV crap, you just don't need to do that to Tolkien.
And you don't need to play the historical flute, etc.
Yes, and you don't need to hire a Lizzo to play a flute while twerking.
Yeah. That's all I wanted to read out.
All right. Well, let's move on.
Let's move on.
Hannah
Gadsby?
We're going to finish on Hannah Gadsby.
Okay.
No, you know what? Go ahead.
Okay. So there's this female comedian, red flag immediately, right?
Because
named
there's
Hannah
nothing
Gadsby.
funnier than female comedians.
She just signed a deal with Netflix for her own comedy special and also like a multi-talented special similar to that of Dave Chappelle's The Closer.
Thank you.
So it's interesting because after signing this deal, people went back and saw her comments in response to Dave Chappelle's special getting backlash for his transphobia. And she called out Ted Sarandos, the CEO
of Netflix,
saying, "Just a quick note to let you know that I would prefer if you didn't drag my name into your mess. Now I have to deal with even more of the hate and anger that Dave Chappelle's fans like to unleash on me every time Dave gets $20 million to process his emotionally stunted partial worldview. You didn't pay me nearly enough to deal with the real-world consequences of the hate speech dog whistling you refuse to acknowledge, Ted. F you and your amoral algorithm cult. I do shits with more backbone than you. That's just a joke. I definitely didn't cross the line because you just told the world there isn't one."
So basically, this is a comedian telling you that there should be limits to comedy, which I love the hypocrisy.
It's a clever wording. I do agree that Netflix is an amoral algorithm cult. I like that, but she's saying it for completely different reasons than what we would say.
Well, she's joining it now because
she's joining it by signing this deal today. It's like, do you think no one would call you out for your hypocrisy?
She looks like somebody took a picture of Rachel Maddow and said, but uglier.
If you put Rachel Maddow into the dolly.
Yeah. They're like, could you make Rachel Maddow, but somehow like less?
Less Rachel Maddow-y.
So imagine I mean, is it hypocrisy or is it just business? Like,
it's both. I mean, I'm sure what she would say, which is what they always say when they're hypocritical,
I'm going to bring it down from the inside.
Is, I'm going to use the system against itself. Yep. And probably in the name of representation, because she's LGBT and she thinks that her group needs more representation. Therefore, when she gets backing from a gigantic multi-billion-dollar industry, she'll say that's a win for marginalized groups. Thoughts?
This is one of those things where early on I would have assumed for myself that I would have been able to like like I would have loved this topic a year ago to be like, look, I can get her position here. Like I get the pushback and then wanting to bring it down from the inside. But now all I see is the hypocrisy.
But it's coupled with the representation narrative.
Yes.
That's her justification for business partnership with what she calls a cult. And if you really felt that way, would you sign it?
It would be really funny if they started putting her specials right next to Dave Chappelle's, like on the same, because like in the same like.
What she should do if she wanted to make her comments make any sense is like feature him on the special that has multiple comedians and then crack jokes at each other's expense.
It's kind of
that would equal the playing field effectively. But no, you want to shut him out so that you can make a lineup that's specially curated to your feelings. She said she wants to curate and host a lineup show featuring 6 new gender diverse comedians. In a notoriously transphobic industry, I'm looking to broaden the scope of opportunities for genderqueer performers from around the globe, as well as expand the diversity of offerings to audiences on one of comedy's biggest platforms.
Nobody is going to watch this.
Obviously, yeah, because they're not funny.
They're not funny. They're mean-spirited. They're filled with messaging. You could even say the same about of a Dave Chappelle, but he is such a gifted comedian, and it's such a small amount of the show. It's what the media focuses on, but those things end up being a small amount of a much larger show. Arguably, like between him and Bill Burr, the less they go into those issues, the better, right? Like their funniest stuff tends to not be the stuff that everybody.
Don't pigeonhole yourself.
Yeah, the funniest stuff tends to be the stuff that that the media doesn't focus on.
The thing that would really accomplish authentic representation would assimilate these comics with the rest of the industry. So if she had a lineup that featured someone like Dave Chappelle or like Ricky Gervais or any of these so-called like subversive, politically incorrect comedians, and she paired them also, thank you with genderqueer performers that she wants to elevate, then that would mean that we're all on an equal playing field because we can crack jokes at each other.
They should do a roast of each other.
Yeah, like a roast special. Like that would be perfect. But because she wants to shun people from the industry over making the wrong jokes, she won't accomplish anything for the ones that she does support.
Thank you guys so much. The idea is it's pretty simple, right? Like he would welcome her to do that. Right. She would never welcome him.
I'm sure that he would be down to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's one-sided. It has to be a two-way street if you actually want to assimilate into the rest of the industry and be well-liked.
And they love the censorship. They love the idea that everyone who doesn't agree with me is bad, therefore they should not be allowed to say what they want. And then they always hit you with the line where they're like, it's hurting people. And I want to become the guy who says source. Like I always want to be
monetizing our trauma. Yeah, I don't even know what they say.
I want to be the guy from now on who just says source to everything because they make such ridiculous claims, such hyperbolic claims that you're like, okay, maybe that's true, but you need to at least give me an example of what the hell you're talking about. Like, people are dying. Like, okay, who's dying? Name the person. Give me the example.
Dave Chappelle at the hands of someone who physically attacked him on stage.
Yes, apparently that guy, the guy
that's
who did
whose
that,
life is being threatened.
Remember
right
that guy like hurt his roommate or like attacked.
He had
his
a criminal
too?
record. He had a history of violence. Yeah.
Yeah. He
and even admitted that he attacked him for the exact precise reason that his jokes were transphobic.
Thank you. Yeah,
which they're not, but even if you can interpret it that way, which is your business, that doesn't warrant violence. Really, like you have to recognize if you're trying to be business savvy, Dave Chappelle is a moneymaker for Netflix right now. He's extremely successful and popular.
And if Hannah Gadsby was going to,
if you want to be on his level and you want to elevate other up and coming performers to be on his level or higher, then you would do a special alongside him.
Yeah.
But, because you don't understand money or how human psychology works enough to make anyone laugh.
And because
then you won't do that.
Ideology is the forefront of what they care about, not money.
Clapter.
There's nothing worse than clapter. Would you agree? Rather than laughter, it's clapter. Jimmy Kimmel, they don't want you to laugh. They want you to clap.
Yeah, we were just talking about the Big Bang Theory and how bad it is. You watch it without the laugh track, it's way better because it exposes how crappy it is when they play their. Now it's time you mechanical seals make some noise.
or.
You guys don't know this, but Mary does a fantastic seal impression. She just did it right there.
I just did it. Well, I only did it for the first time because of the G4 TV.
Yes. She also does a very good monkey impression. You wouldn't believe
that. I'll save for another day because
certain amount of crisis parties and Mary does her monkey impression.
Yeah, 30 crisis parties and you get Mary's.
You have to like
impression.
hop on the chair as you do it.
Yeah,
too.
I'll go feral. Return to monkey.
So, like, and the thing is like the idea of like a dual roast of roasting each other is inherently inclusive because it puts everyone on the same playing field, but they don't want to be on the same playing field. They want to be able to attack you while telling you that it's cry bullying. They want to be able to attack you and then cry out in pain as they hit you.
And she's saying these genderqueer performers are a demographic still struggling to have their voices heard, but their voices aren't being heard because you're ghettoizing yourselves by not joining the rest of the guild, You're creating your own space, which is where people who are maybe they're not... LGBT comedian should not even be its own category. Yeah. You should just be a comedian.
Who happens to... But the problem is because they want to segregate who can talk about what, you have to make categories, which is inherently...
Mm-hmm.
It's very strange. Netflix has recently done that. There's the Dahmer. I don't know if you guys talked about that this week. Dahmer is LGBTQ. First of all...
And then they removed the tag.
They removed it.
Okay, good, because it's weird. It should just say gay on it, firstly, if they're going to have a tag, because it's not LBT or Q. It's just Dahmer was gay, okay? And it would be extremely offensive to put gay on a movie. Like, you're like, what the hell are you doing?
But they do.
You don't need to tell me if a movie is about straight people or gay people. I don't care. I want to see a good movie. Is it good?
Well, they objected to it for different reasons. I think they were claiming that the show inherently, is a misrepresentation of gay people and that you're romanticizing the serial killer by making this show about him.
And then had the Boozy Badass was talking about how he said people should boycott the show and not see it because of what he did to young black men, which is bonkers.
Yeah, when it's
they're not allowing their stories to be told.
If you think that it's insensitive to the victims' families to make a show like that, that's another conversation.
Yeah.
But to say that it's not inherently part of LGBT history is just factually incorrect.
And the other thing here is like they talk about how it was mostly gay black men that he killed,
and that's part of his psychology.
They have whole sections now that are dedicated to elevate black voices, content just involving the African American community. So as we've segregated communities further, now we have to decide what goes into what category, who's allowed to be into those communities. But when we talk about Dave Chappelle and Hannah Gadsby, you want to put them on equal playing field and allow everyone to benefit, but they don't want to be on equal playing field.
I think it's like, it feels like a regression that we're now categorizing people by race and gender. But I think what's happening is like when you shift up in a car, when you're driving, you're in third gear and you go into fourth. When you put the car into fourth gear, there's a moment where the car slows down before it starts to accelerate again. Yeah. And we may be doing that with this internet video, with all these cultures around Earth coming together at once. We're kind of in a shifting mode right now where it seems like we're regressing, but we're actually just putting it into a new gear.
Well, think about this. So if you're a comedian, right, and you're an LGBTQ comedian, would you rather have the tag there that might inherently, will it put more people off than it will bring people in? Are enough people going onto Netflix and saying, I'm looking for LGBTQ comedians, than are people that are saying, I don't care about this.
I'm looking for a funny comedian.
And saying like, I don't want, maybe only part of the special is talking about that. But if you label the whole thing as like that, somebody might think that the whole special is just you talking about your sexuality or your gender identity, when that might turn people off. Like, that's not what I'm looking for right now. Rather than somebody who just clicks on, here's a funny comedian, and in the middle of the special, there's a portion of it that's dedicated to that, but it's not the whole thing. You're actually limiting your audience. You're not reaching more people.
Yeah, and I think that's something like that has ghettoized female comedians as well.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Because all of them make their special into their soapbox time, And then I've never seen a female comedian that's made me laugh. Just, I'm going to put that out there. But like, and stand up is awkward inherently anyways.
Yeah.
But if there were to be a female comedian that is actually laugh out loud funny, she would be automatically off the table for a lot of people because they see a female comedian and they think this is going to be the next like Amy Schumer special.
Yeah. Because
they all do that, and that's what's amplified on streaming services.
And does it feel like there's no, like has there ever been a female comedian that didn't feel like they had a chip on their shoulder the whole time they were doing it? Like, I'm not just a comedian, I am a female comedian. Therefore,
there's one. I'm going to look her up actually. But yeah, most of them are like that.
I've never seen Chrissy Mars stuff, but I know a lot of people like her.
I love her personally. Yeah. She's funny.
Angela Johnson is the one that I like, but even her, like, not all of her specials are good.
So it's just Hannah Gadsby's she's really just doing herself a disservice by making this issue what it is.
Did she insult Netflix after she got the contract?
No, she did that before, and then Netflix was stupid enough to then like. Wow. It's kind of like there was it Chloe Zhao? No, it's not Chloe Zhao. There was a creator that got a job at DC by basically calling the head of DC Comics a racist. She's like,
they're incentivizing this stuff.
So she said, because C.B. Sapolsky, who's like the chief editor over at DC Comics, used to write under a pen name named Akira Toshida because he would write manga, and you use a pen name because people aren't going to buy a manga from like a guy with a white sounding name, right? That was very common. It's still very common for people to write under pen names. J.K. Rowling writes under a pen name. A lot of them use ambiguous pen names. If there's a lot of male romance writers that write romance books that use female pen names because women don't want to buy romance novels written by men. Right? So she basically says that you're racist for using this pen name. And then like, because he's got to prove that he's not a racist, he hires her. So she literally bullied him into hiring her by calling him a racist.
The idea that the name sounds white is kind of insane because it actually just sounds English.
Yeah.
English doesn't mean white.
Yeah.
I understand that the Roman patriarchy is a legitimate problem in the world, and that's why we fled the Roman Catholic Church to form the United States.
Then Western. It sounds Western.
But even that's like the line of demarcations in Britain. They did that on purpose to call us the West. They want to control the narrative. They fled the Catholic Church.
But it was the Anglican Church that ran
Well, they
England.
protested all of it. Yeah, they were like, I'm done with church authority.
But they were all Christians.
Yeah,
they just didn't want to be under the thumb of the monarchy, which was officially Anglican.
At that point, it was. Yeah.
There's a comment here.
I think it was.
Chrissy Mayer's pretty funny. She has a new T-shirt.
Yeah, they mentioned her.
That says, "Well, I mentioned her," and so he says that she's pretty funny. That she has a new shirt that says, "You sound vaccinated."
They have. They mentioned Carol Burnett. They mentioned Adrian Lapalucci. I think.
Have to check them out.
They said, someone else said, Anna, I think they mean Hannah Gadsby, but they said she was extremely funny until she decided to make a comedy special where the point was to withhold the laughter. That's not comedy. That's comedic art, not comedy.
Yeah.
I get it, but it's not funny.
What if all we're living through right now is just one big performance art piece?
Or a social experiment or something?
Like it's just one
Sometimes
big social
feels like that.
Doesn't it? Is it because we're so connected now because of computers and the fact that you have access to so much information all the time your brain just can't handle it? Like we weren't designed as humans to be able to constantly have like when you go to a library and you look at all the information, you're overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But when you look at your phone where there's just as there's more information, you're not overwhelmed in the same way, and you're literally almost like setting yourself up for failure by trying to take in all this information, and you can't take it in properly all the time, and you kind of end up living this half-life. That's what it feels like to me all the time. I never feel like I'm taking in everything I need to at the right rate, right? Like instead of taking in one thing really, really well, I'm taking in hundreds of thousands of things not well at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, there seems like
that could be projection. That could just be me.
I mean, you probably experience it on the extreme when like everyone else knows what you're talking about but doesn't like feel it that strongly.
Yeah.
There are a lot of solutions to that. One of them is like walking barefoot on grass.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Also eating Hawaiian rolls.
I'm not eating Hawaii.
If you want to feel,
I will be dumb then. I will be dumb.
If you want to feel connected, you need to eat things that are connected, and Hawaiian rolls.
This feels like a bit
connected.
This feels like a bit right now. Was this planned?
My life is a bit.
From one roll are many.
Yes. Yes.
All right, guys.
Fractal.
It's all about collective consciousness, collective Hawaiian rolls.
Before we go into super chats, I want to make a few references here. I want to mention a few things. Okay, Gal Gadot. Go listen to her say her name.
Gadot.
It's not Gadot. It's not Gadot. Gadot.
Okay.
Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman is going to appear in the Flash movie. They're like, Ezra Miller, you abused a bunch of kids. Oh, well, Ezra Miller, you're kind of a creep. Oh, well, we're going to put Superman, we're going to put Batman, and we're going to put Wonder Woman in your movie because...
Just so they can do the interviews and not you.
It's literally going to be so that the old Justice League can do all the promo because Ezra Miller, they don't know if Ezra Miller is going to attack the reporter. They're like, most of the reporters are women. We can't have him around women. What if there's a karaoke machine around?
They're definitely going to deceptively edit the trailers and all of the promo so that it features him less.
Oh yeah, it's gonna feel like they're in the movie a bunch, and they're not gonna be in the movie a bunch. So it says Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman has been added to The Flash suddenly. The Flash becomes a bigger film because Ben Affleck as Batman's going to be in it. He's been in production since the beginning. However, Henry Cavill also returns as Superman in the movie. In other words, The Flash unites the DCEU's Trinity: Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. Out of all the movies to throw this into, you do it to the movie that has possibly the worst PR out of all of them.
Yeah.
It's kind of bonkers.
These poor actors.
Ben Affleck seemed...
They're victims of circumstance.
So, like, it's kind of like a weird... It's like a modern version of what we were talking about earlier with, like, Bruce Willis. Like, they've signed on to these roles and they feel, like, obligated to do these cameos now. And, like...
Yeah.
So poor Ben Affleck just wants to retire... and he's in the new. He's going to be.
Well,
in
they've
Aquaman.
already filmed it all.
Yes,
so.
and Aquaman is going to be in, or Batman's going to be in the Aquaman movie as well, and they just can't let go.
Yeah. I gotta say though, Henry Cavill as Superman is definitive proof that he shouldn't be James Bond.
In what way?
If Superman is supposed to be an American icon, you can't.
Everyone
loves
loves
turn him
Superman,
into a British icon.
I think you can.
It doesn't translate well.
I don't think he should be. I don't think he should be James Bond. I would rather.
A lot of people do though. I just don't see it.
Rather than those other actors, I would. But he'd have to lose some of that muscle mass, and you'd have to kind of lean out a little bit. He's a little bit too buff for James Bond. But I think he's too old. He's got to be closer to 40 now. Like
they're running into the problem where they're just not. There's no new class of great male actors, you know.
You think Tom Holland will ever play Bond?
Honestly, like I wouldn't.
I
be
shudder
surprised.
to think.
I wouldn't be surprised if they had Tom Holland do it.
He's American though. No,
He's a British dude.
No, he's British.
He's British.
Yeah, he just does a killer accent.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
he's a really good actor.
He's like I could see him. I could see them getting him to do it. Like he's kind of scrawny. They're
be
like
James
we
Bond
want
Jr.
a non-threatening Bond.
No, he literally looks 12 years old.
He does. But by the time the movie comes out, he'll be a little older. Like, could you do drugs for a couple of years and like really live hard?
Yeah, he needs some hard
so
living.
that you look older.
Do tanning booths.
Some life in the jungle.
That'd be incredible. They're like, we're gonna get you the best hookers, the best blow, the best this, and we're like, by the time
someone call Hunter Biden.
Yeah.
Are they looking to fill the role right now, the Bond role?
It's gonna be. It's gonna be a while. They're gonna cast the villain first. I think they should cast Idris Elba as the villain. I do, and then they'll cast Bond, and basically the idea is like you have to sign on.
Cast someone in his 20s.
They want that person. It'll probably be late 20s. I think they go Reggae Jean Page, the dude from Bridgerton.
Okay,
that's my guess. Or somebody else said Matt Smith, but I think Matt Smith almost has two. He's kind of in the.
He's already 40.
He's in the Cillian Murphy route of being like too distinctive a face to do it. But like they'll want somebody who can sign on for 10 to 12 years, so you can't go really any older than early 30s. Otherwise, he's gonna be closer to 50 by the time he's done, and they're gonna want younger.
Yeah,
and he's gonna have to be sensitive and listen to women's feelings before he tries to have sex with them, and it's gonna be really fun. It's gonna be like an after school special.
I was just thinking of augmented reality again, where they're like right now they've got it set up so like depending on who you are, you'll see a different thing when you're watching a movie. Like if you're 12 years old, you'll see a Coca-Cola can, but if you're 30, you'll see a Budweiser can. It's going to be like that with what actor do you want to see? Do you want it to be, Peter, what's his name, Dinklage or whatever you want, James Bond, and then it'll be their voice and face faked onto Dinklage.
Peter Dinklage is James Bond. Oh,
it should be. He's so badass.
that would be so funny. Like nobody would see it coming.
How old is he?
He's probably too old.
Yeah.
He's probably in his late 40s at this point.
Yeah.
He's too old. But let's face it.
If they
we
didn't
need to put
insist
him
on
in a
having a
huge role right now.
decade-long James Bond run, then it wouldn't be a problem.
They
He's
need
53.
And to be fair, they need Superman. Like Henry Cavill's never gotten a fair shake as Superman in his like. I thought Man of Steel was fine. It wasn't a great movie, but it was fine. But he as Superman, people love him in that role. He's just not been in a lot of great movies, and that kind of speaks to how good he is at it. That he can be consistently in these underwhelming movies, and people still like you as that character. Right? Like, you'll find very few people who, like me.
Normally we see overwhelming movies with underwhelming characters.
Yes. Yeah. Like, most of the time, me and Dane argue about, Dane hates Ben Affleck as Batman. I think Ben Affleck is fine as Batman, but I pretend like I love him just to piss Dane off. But, like, you don't hear a lot of people say that Superman, that Henry Cavill as Superman wasn't good. You hear people say that Man of Steel wasn't good. You hear them say that Henry Cavill, or that Superman didn't act like Superman in that film because he killed Zod. But you don't hear a lot of people saying that Henry Cavill didn't do the role well.
A lot of these actors are really good. They've got like top level, like in my MCU. My biggest problem is maybe the writing. Maybe I don't really watch the movies, but it's the spandex tights. Like it's so 1950. It's so ancient, weird, like out of date stuff that they keep recycling. And like, dude, just fix the costume, fix it, make them look cool.
I think it's kind of because they're visual cues to the genre, though.
They want to remind the nostalgia.
Yeah.
They're looking
It's a visual cue to the actual genre that you're working within. Like if you put him, like when
it doesn't have to be though. Like James Bond doesn't wear pink spandex. He never.
But he wears the suit.
He wears a suit, like a
but that's
regular,
his,
like
but
a
then,
dark suit.
So if you take the Punisher and you get rid of the iconic Punisher logo, he's still in just his regular outfit. But if you take Daredevil's outfit away from him, he's not really Daredevil.
Remember, they have Batman in this goofy ass suit with like poking ears. You're like, dude, what in the freak is he wearing? And then that one dude went out and he actually
Bat
was
nips.
a superhero. You remember that one guy in like Detroit or something? He was like a real life superhero.
Oh, that's happened.
He was like beating up. He was like fighting bad guys. He was like fighting like thugs on the street, and then I think eventually got hurt.
Yeah, those dudes always get their end
But
up.
he was wearing a
kicked.
goofy ass suit, and it's like, dude, it's another form of like this weird mental child warping that humanity's stuck in right now.
Well, a lot of what those people that would do it, that like the real life superhero movement was like a thing, but they were mostly like
it was in Portland, I think.
Like they're like community organizers, right? That they would go out
Yeah.
on like a neighborhood watch and like help the homeless and stuff like that. It's just a way to kind of diffuse tense situations because the costume is ridiculous.
Yeah, and the cops weren't pulling Phoenix Jones is what that
Okay.
guy's name was.
Also, the other one, I heard somewhere that because when they make the Thunderbolts movie, the Marvel movie, that would have featured Thunderbolt Ross from the comics, but the actor that played him passed away, and they're talking about getting Harrison Ford to do that role.
What role is it?
Thaddeus Ross.
I don't know it.
So it would be interesting there. We got that. And then also they're making a Community movie.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I heard
I
about
never
this.
saw Community.
The
TV show?
The
I
TV
never
show.
saw Community though.
But they're making
Did
a
you?
movie for it. I watched the first season. That's not my genre, but a lot of people love that show, and they're bringing a bunch of the people back. 6 of the 9 main cast are coming back.
Why is this a good thing? Why are you saying it like it's a good
I
thing?
just like it seems like people if they're bringing back something for a movie, I'd rather they bring it back for a movie and try it than try to do the show over again.
With different actors?
Yeah.
It's all bad.
It's all. Hannah Claire would agree with you.
This is all just.
And one more thing before we go. Remember when everyone was saying that it was horrible that they canceled Batgirl because it was racist and it was sexist because it was a Latina woman and blah, blah, blah. And they said that they would never do that again, that was unheard of. Well, Netflix just canceled a series called Grendel, which is based on a Dark Horse comics. And it wasn't just almost done. It was done. And they just
Must be so disappointing.
Yeah, to be that actor.
Yeah.
So it says, in a similar move to the Warner Brothers Discover, what they did with Batgirl, Netflix has decided to not move forward with the Grendel series that is already completed and has canceled the show that is based on the Dark Horse comic of the same name. Grendel's can still be shopped around to other companies, though. So they're not burning it like they had to with Batgirl. So theoretically, this could end up at Amazon Prime.
Yeah, because the real loss for the actors is the opportunity cost, because you spent all that time and nothing is going to go on your portfolio for it.
Yep. So the lead actor, whose name is Abubakar Ali, is the first Arab Muslim male actor to lead a comic book adaptation where Ali plays the titular character.
He's making history.
They love to make history. They're obsessed with making history. He says, first Arab Muslim, dreams come true, and I'm a mess, Ali posted on Instagram a year ago, like when the project was first announced. So, I mean, I don't like to see the dude not get his due, so hopefully they shop it around to somebody else. But I just want to point out that this is another example of, like, it's not unheard of that something gets close to done and they just decide they're not going to release it because it doesn't fit with where they're going, with their material. This one, I don't know if it's because of the cost or if it's for whatever reason, but they canceled it and they're going to allow it to be shopped to other networks.
Is this the Beowulf, Grendel?
That's what I initially thought too, but it's not.
It's not. It's based on a character from Dark Horse, so it would have been an independent
It would be
creation.
interesting to see an adaptation of Beowulf. I know there's been an attempt at it, an animated movie, but no live action.
You got to make it like full American English if they do it.
There was also that book called Grendel that was like an apocryphal addition to Grendel's character from Beowulf that they could have adapted too.
Someone was telling me they thought Grendel was a giant bear.
He's sort of like an incel.
Yet somehow the new Interview with the Vampire series gets approved for season 2 before the first episode even comes out. Makes no sense. They don't need to remake that movie. They certainly don't need to make it into a TV show that looks nothing like the Anne Rice book.
Yeah, TV shows just don't end soon enough.
No, they don't.
So if you F it up, it's just way worse.
So Super Chats.
Caper2X said, Brett, let's give Hannah Claire a beanie. Put Mary on it.
We got to get.
Is this a rule now?
Like
we have to wear hats?
We crown our queens here at Pop Culture Crisis. Yes,
with a
we do.
beanie.
With a beanie.
Colt Seaman said, Ian, your magic worked. The hurricane missed my town. Keep on doing the good work, my guy. Love ya. And I guess Brett and Mary love you too.
Well, your
I guess
your extra love that you're just blessing us with, tangentially is fine. Thank you.
What a pittance.
What a pittance.
Waffle Sensei said, Bronwyn is gonna die. I'm not watching Lord of the Rings. If they had an intimate we're gonna be together in the end scene, then yeah, she gonna die. It's like when someone says goodbye on the phone in films.
No, it'll probably be Arendir then, because they fake you out with her almost dying in this one, and then she'll die. And then
I wish that he had lost his eye to that orc he was fighting, and then continued fighting after that. That would be cool. And also, she should have died probably in this episode.
I do think that there's a certain lack of I'm looking for good romance stuff. I feel like there's a distinct lack of it nowadays. I talk a lot about how I feel like it's treated as something that people are supposed to be cynical about. That maybe it's
they're
because
trying to add it.
I was looking for The Bodyguard on
that Kevin Costner Whitney Houston movie.
Because when they did the Deadpool announcement for Deadpool 3, they played the song "I Will Always Love You" by Whitney Houston. And I'm like, I'm gonna go watch The Bodyguard.
They hooked up on that movie for sure. What happens is two actors get together. They're like, oh, we're gonna play lovers in the movie, okay? And then as they're shooting, they start hooking up in real life, and you can tell the chemistry. And you see in the movie the chemistry before they hook up and after they hook up. You can tell because the dynamic will change.
So to me, I feel like there just isn't a lot of emphasis put on that in movies these days because movies have been sterilized. Marvel can't do it because you can't show a whole lot of that stuff when you're making generic PG-13 movies that are made for children. In every other genre, it just feels like there is a whole distinct, the only rom-coms I see advertised anymore, ironically, are now there's a big market for gay rom-coms. That's a big thing now that they're
Bros came out, yeah.
So it's they're not advertising. They don't They don't actually think of the idea of men and women falling in love anymore. It's like a virtue or something to aspire to, and it kind of.
Well, there was the new one with Jennifer Lopez.
Did anybody watch it?
No,
because it had what's his name in it. I'm thinking something. There was one that Armie Hammer he was signed on for that, and then everything happened.
That But she was on a rom-com recently.
But it was with like
what was it
Owen
called?
Wilson, or it was like with
yeah, with Owen Wilson.
Out of
like,
all
what?
imagine a world where a normal person ends up that looks like normal. Owen Wilson ends up with a normal, even a normal woman that looks like Jennifer Lopez.
I saw an interview with Julia Roberts talking about how rom-coms have kind of died.
Yeah.
We took them for granted at the time. But she also is making a new one that we talked about briefly, not on the show, but we talked about it. It's like about these two, I think it was like divorced, a husband and wife that are trying to like rescue their daughter from getting married too soon to some guy.
I was hoping you'd say like the pits of hell. Or
from the pits of hell.
Yeah,
I
like
mean,
Goonies.
that'd be cool too.
I would like
and then
to see
in the
more.
process, they
rescue her
fall
from a
back in love.
relationship. Oh.
I realize how often, like in the shows that I love, it's not the forefront to the most important aspect of it, but they have like a strong romance or like couple involved in the show.
I think something that might be happening behind the scenes is actors are nervous about getting canceled if they have sex with one of their coworkers. Like if a guy and a girl, they're like, okay, you guys are lovers in the movie. Okay, now we've got to establish some sort of intimate dynamic.
Well, that's what the intimacy
Then they go out for
coordinator
dinner
is
at night.
for.
They work together. Yeah. They have to oversee this stuff. They go out. What would happen is like George Clooney and Julia Roberts would go out to dinner. They'd hang out all night. They'd get drunk, and then they'd go have sex. Yeah. And then they'd be like, in the movie, they'd be like, oh, they really love each other, because they really do. They're like in that honeymoon phase, those first 2 months of a relationship where it's like, I'm obsessed with you, and you capture that on film, and it makes a great movie at the expense of like George Clooney's wife and Julia Roberts' husband or whoever else has to eat it while these actors are doing the art. But nowadays, if a guy takes a girl, goes out with his coworker and has sex with her, they might tweet about it, and then his entire career's fried.
I think it's more just a cynical. I think that the writers that are coming into their own now grew up in a more cynical time, and they don't aspire to that the way an older writer might have aspired to the idea of putting love on screen.
Even in like a teen drama now, there's no romance. There's just like disgusting violations and like hookups and trauma and like intravenous heroin. And it's like, does Gen Z relate to this? Because statistically, it's not what their experience is. Yeah. I really don't understand the...
Or it becomes self-fulfilling later, and
it
becomes what they experience because they watched it
because
on TV.
They watched it, yeah. 1,000 Foot Deep End said, I haven't been watching the series, but this comment on a Rings of Power meme, it's like watching episodes of Drunk History for Lord of the Rings. It made me LOL. Yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
Potatoes for Seamus said, hope everyone has a great weekend. Loved Ian's take on everything today. Love Ian and all the rest of PCC and IRL.
Oh, man,
and some
thanks.
shopping cart emojis.
Thank you, Seamus. Potatoes for Seamus.
Yeah, we'll eventually get some potatoes for Seamus.
1,000 Foot Deep End said, a less Rachel Maddow would be an improvement.
Yes,
LOL.
it would. You know that she was in the Batgirl series?
Rachel Maddow?
The Batwoman series, excuse me, on CW. She didn't play Rachel Maddow, but she played like a Rachel Maddow-esque character.
That's funny.
Isn't that like the most awful thing you can think of? Like being forced to intentionally watch Rachel Maddow on like a feminist
I've never
TV
had ill will towards that woman for some reason. I don't always agree with her spin. I didn't like that she was kind of pushing the Russia narrative. But our
power
like
grid is going to be shut down at any second.
Johnny Derp said, apologies for numbers, YouTube censorship. Ian, I once super chatted on IRL that if I had a dog with your wit, I would put it down. I want to apologize for such an outburst with a super chat.
Oh, well, thanks, man.
Thank you.
Who or woman? Who was that?
It was a man.
As
far as I know.
Yes.
I do think that there has been. I don't know about censorship, but the show is having a hard time getting its reach. So I would like everybody, please, if you're watching us live, to share the video with your friends, like the videos, leave comments on the videos, and show this to your family. We are family-friendly content.
Bring us
here.
home.
Bring us home. Introduce us to your parents. We would like to meet them.
Yeah.
How else do you foster an excellent long-running relationship if we don't get to be introduced to one another's loved ones?
I wonder if someone watches a YouTube video on 1.5 speed, if the watch time is calculated at 1.5 speed, or if they actually give you less watch time because you watched it faster.
These are the things YouTube needs to tell us.
Tell me.
We need to figure it out.
1,000 Foot Deep End said, perhaps that's their play, Brett. Label it LGBTQ so they can cry discrimination when it inevitably flops. But in reality, it's because it's not funny.
That's the sad part. Like, if they had more confidence in their own material, they wouldn't need it to be labeled as LGBTQ.
Yeah.
They would just make it humor.
But I'm of the camp of just pick one. Is it L? Is it G? Like, is it gay? Is it bi? It's one of the many. You know, just decide. You know, it doesn't have to be all of them at once.
Have you seen the flag? There's like 90 things on.
Yeah, it's too confusing because they're going to put straight people on that flag too, and it's going to be
a
all inclusive now. And you're like, what was the point to begin with?
We're right back where we started.
The lines on the gay flag are surprisingly straight.
Imagine like when they add straight, it's a straight line.
They should make the lines squiggly.
Yeah.
I agree, though. If you count on the quality of the art, you really don't need to tag it up and graffiti all over it.
Walker, Texas Danger said Peter Dinklage needs to work on his accent, though.
I mean, we can also.
Yeah, that's true. He had an abysmal accent in Game of Thrones.
Where's he from?
Philly? I don't know.
Is he?
No, I think he's L.A., right? Let me check it up.
Carnell said, I'd like to remind everyone that the principal filming of The Flash was shot before Spider-Man No Way Home. That is all.
He was Jersey.
Literal history.
You was a young, fresh-faced criminal at that point, and not yet a
not even a criminal yet.
I mean, he's probably already getting close there, but, you know. Ian, thank you so much.
Thanks, Brett.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was.
Let everyone know where they can find you.
Well, tonight you can find me on Timcast IRL at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube. Timcast IRL. You can find me iancrossland.net. You can get through to me on any social media, basically at Ian Crossland. Check it out. Make sure it's me. It's not an imposter. Somebody else with my name, not an imposter.
Or somebody with a deep fake of you.
Yeah, watch out for that. But usually if it's Ian Crossland and you see my face and my hair, it's me.
Mary, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Mary Archived, and whenever I post articles on timcast.com, I promote them there.
Perfect. Guys, I want to say thank you once again for watching today and remind you, please like the videos, share the videos if you do indeed like the content. Leave comments on them and share the video out wide. We want to extend our reach past where we are.
We need that algorithmic blessing.
We do. We absolutely do. But if you're going to watch the show, we are here Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on YouTube. We are also on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, and Spotify if you would like to listen rather than watch. And then if you want to follow us on social media, we are on Twitter at popculture_show, Facebook and TikTok at popculturecrisis, and on Instagram at popculturecrisisPod. We will be back with another episode on Monday. We'll see you then, guys. Bye.
Bye.